everyone, and welcome to the Apex Legends Master Circuit Wildcards Qualifier number 3 for Europe. I am Wonder Chef, joined by Parallax, Stella, and today we're going to be taking the place of Rainday and Girl. Unfortunately, Rainday had prior engagement, and Girl has been suffering from some less than fortunate weather, so we are all hoping her the best, but we are going to be taking the spot. Of course, everybody should be pretty familiar with Stella, a name that's around a lot, and even in ALGS. I am Wonder Chef, of course. You might be familiar with me from some of the Mortal Kombat tournaments around here, but I'm a big Apex player myself as well, so I'm really excited to watching today. But Stella, how are you doing?
I'm good. I have a cat on my lap, so I love these work from home productions because you get to show off your little fuzzy ones, which is great. But more importantly, I'm really excited to see how EU is going to play today, because in my experience, EMEA region has always been way more aggressive. So I absolutely love casting EU, which makes me so happy to see again.
Yeah, well, I've been watching a lot of these throughout, not just this season, but the first season as well, and I think you will probably not be disappointed at all. But of course, if any of you haven't been watching this series so far, we do, of course, have the format to teach you how this goes. So, of course, it's going to be trios. It is going to be up to 20 teams per day, and we're going to be playing 5 games throughout the day for Europe, and then a little bit later on, of course, we're going to have the North American broadcast as well, where it will be the same thing again. So a total of 10 games, you could say, overall throughout the day between EU and North America. But of course, these players are playing on a points system, which will be helping them decide whether or not they qualify for the finals at the end of next month. But Stella, why don't you explain the points to us?
Sure. I mean, if you've been watching ALGS, it's probably not going to be super unfamiliar, but obviously placement matters. So first place, you'll start with 12 points. Second, you'll go to 9. Third, you'll go to 7, and it kind of just trickles down from there. And when you hit 11th to 15th place, you will only be getting 1 placement point. So you really want to be getting kills because each elimination is 1 point each. And if you're going to be in these lobbies, you definitely want to be one of the top fraggers, because points, you could land 2nd place and you could have more kills than actually end up winning overall in that match.
Yeah, and of course, you want to be top of the points because not only can you qualify by being within the top 10 for the finals at the end of next month, but there's money on the line for today. Of course, first place team is going to be getting $600, second getting $300, third and fourth $150 each, and it is all, of course, a free tournament, so they essentially risk nothing to play in these, and some of these teams that actually we've been seeing have probably earned quite a bit, and some of these will be earning quite a bit today as well. But we can take a look at who is going to be playing today. We've got some teams that for sure we have seen throughout the past season and a half quite a bit. We've seen Viper Squadron, we've seen TXC, Clippers. We Don't Play, of course, was our week 1 champion for this season, and they got second, I believe, the last wildcards qualifier. Baguette, our previous champion, of course, another team that we've seen a lot over the past, I don't even know how many tournaments it's been. It's been like 9 or 10 broadcast tournaments, and then even more off stream. So these players now are for sure starting to become very, very used to this entire thing. But of course, they all started off basically just being teams that were like, hey, you know what? Let's try and sign up. Let's have some fun. Maybe we'll win some money. And some of those teams, like Baguette, for example, definitely did. And you can do the same thing as well. You start the exact same way as them. You go to compete.playstation.com. It is the home, of course, for all things PlayStation tournaments related, whether it be signing up for tournaments like this, whether it's reading news. There's interviews with players. For example, we had some of these players from those teams on those interviews. But of course, you can sign up there. You can enter these tournaments. It's all run directly from your PlayStation. It's as easy as can be. Compete.playstation.com. But we are actually getting ready towards going towards our first map of the day. So where are we going, Stella?
Yeah, so we are going into the ever-beloved Kings Canyon, which I know a lot of people have opinions on, including me, but that is the current ranked split right now for this season as well. So hopefully these players have been ranking, hopefully they have a good handle on the map, because a lot of things have changed. First off, the ring closes way faster now. The first ring closes almost immediately off drop, and the damage for the circle has been increased from 1 to 2, which doesn't seem like a whole lot, but especially on maps like Kings Canyon, you are going to be taking a lot of fights outside of the circle because you don't have a lot of time to loot and rotate in. Also, another point, a lot of rotation points have been taken out from the map and adjusted. So there are a lot of ways that you have to be a little bit more careful about rotating in, and you have to rotate in faster because you don't want to be the last team in the final circle because you are absolutely going to get circle guarded.
Yeah, it's. I mean, you asked earlier in the day. You were like, "Oh, I really hope that we get some more aggression from EU." I think, whether they want it or not, we're probably going to see a lot more aggression from EU. Just the fact that we're going to be here on Kings Canyon. But I'm very excited. Of course, just so that everybody knows, I'm a lot less of, for sure, a competitive player than, for example, Rain Day or Stella or Girl. With the competitive experience. But I've got a few thousand hours within the game, and I am a huge Apex fan. So I've got a lot of experience, especially on the old Kings Canyon. I'm very excited to see what these teams do on the current one, and this is it's a map dear to my heart. Of course, it can be very chaotic without a doubt, but I mean everybody's got the nostalgia, right?
Yeah, they definitely do. And another important point is that Skulltown is back, but it's redone. But I still avoid that place like the plague. Like, it is not my place of choice to land. Absolutely not.
Well, yeah, I mean, this is really interesting, especially from a tournament standpoint, right? Because we can for sure see some people who really want to get those early frags. They really want to drop in places like Skulltown, or we could see people kind of dropping towards the end. And we do get to see all these teams that are starting to load in. It looks like we've got a good amount of players. Of course, it's not going to be a completely full lobby, so we might see a few less early fights than we would expect. But again, I have no idea whether or not any of these teams are going to start playing that aggressive route. You can really rack up those points, especially if you're really confident in those early team wipes, but again, I really truly have no idea. I'm really excited to see how this starts out.
Yeah, and looking at the team rosters, we do see a lot of legends that can rotate around Valkyrie. I'm seeing a lot of Valkyries right now, which is great because, again, a lot of the rotation points have been taken out from Kings Canyon. So you're not going to be able to take the same rotation points that you have been able to before. So Valkyrie is going to be extremely valuable. Even though she got a nerf, she's still a really strong legend right now.
Oh yes, extremely strong. And I mean, we've seen, of course, a lot of Valkyrie through all tournaments for quite a while at this point, but the one interesting thing is that we do see some pretty different metas from EU and NA within these PlayStation tournaments. So for example, like we used to see a lot of Seer, but it's a new map, it's a new kind of style for them. So we are immediately seeing, it looks like most teams are starting to get split up. There are a pretty decent amount of teams kind of heading towards that northeast area.
Yeah, so, I mean, Kings Canyon being a smaller map kind of works for how many people are in the lobby right now, but as you can see, a lot of the POIs kind of overlap, at least in terms of being able to get from one place to another very quickly, especially if you have a legend like Valkyrie. But it does look like we do have some lobby issues, which is fine, it happens. I mean, every tournament has technical issues. If we weren't a professional company, you would not see issues. Every professional company has issues. It's fine. We literally see it all the time.
Yeah, it's very much the classic, right? It wouldn't be a normal tournament without, especially starting off the day, right? Let's get all the restarts out of the way, all the tech issues. Let's just hope that our luck is pretty good. But yeah, so just like you were saying, having just a few less teams within the lobby, it does feel like it kind of stops quite as many. Like I feel like a completely full lobby, you kind of have to end up landing on somebody within Kings Canyon, right? Or at least like kind of close within like one rotation. But it looked like, just at least from what we saw, which was at least we got to see how everybody was dropping, it seemed like most people were just split up enough that we were going to have to wait until the first rotation to start seeing the fights, which is a little bit less chaotic than maybe I was expecting. Although, of course, they do have the chance to redrop and once the game is actually created.
Yeah, there was a lot of bunching of teams around like the swamps and labs area, which honestly, to be fair, the loot there is pretty good. But I think that a lot of those teams are probably going to fight early on or try to rotate away immediately just because, again, as soon as you land, the circle starts to close pretty quickly. So a lot of those teams may want to fight early on, get that KP, and then just play for placement. But I mean, I don't know. We'll see. We only got to see them land initially. We didn't get to see how they were going to operate. So we'll get this lobby up, and then we'll see how everyone decides to initiate, I guess.
Yeah. It's, I mean, we're just getting to see this one step at a time, but I do honestly think that it could be a strong strategy today to go for some like early frags. We do usually within these tournaments see, especially since there is like a few less people and a lot of them have been on, for example, like Storm Point, other maps, like we've seen some slower play, and usually we get to be, I don't know, down to a decent amount of teams when we get to the final circle. But it's very different, right? I think that it's very easy to, of course, get like third partied or to be caught unaware or to get caught in a little bit of a choke point, like when you're rotating, especially in this current spot, like seeing where everybody dropped, like for sure, we were just like a few minutes away after looting from seeing the first fights. So I kind of feel like if you can secure some points early, it's harder to guarantee that you're going to survive to the final ring on this map.
Yeah, so getting early KP is really good. I mean, again, we saw that 11th to 15th place only gets 1 placement point. So, I mean, any points that you can get leading up to that help a lot. Obviously, it helps a lot if you're in first place because you get 9 points. So, I mean, it's one of those things of you just have to understand when you want to fight. A lot of people choose early fights, like right off the drop, because they know that no one's going to have anything. So a lot of it results in like punch out fights, anything like grenades. It's chaotic, but sometimes it works. But a lot of the times it kind of just ends up in them getting eliminated early. And that team that they try to fight does end up getting the points and the placement. So you have to choose wisely, especially with game number 1. I think we're just going to be seeing a lot of teams trying to feel out where the other teams are going to be going initially and just feeling out how exactly they're going to play, especially with them seeing the different legends that they are going to be going up against.
Yeah, and another thing to mention is, just the uniqueness of this series is that we do see a lot of these teams that have now played together in, like I said, something like, 13, 12 broadcasts, something like that. And they know each other very well, right? I mean, all these teams now, they talk to each other. They've kind of created their own little meta, community within a way, but they also do know who the threats are, right? So I don't think that we're out of the realm of possibility of, kind of specifically maybe targeting a team or trying to stay away from a specific team. It's not just going to be an entire lobby full of oh, I know that every single team here is an absolute killer, or I have literally no idea who everybody in this lobby is. For example, the 2 teams that we really have to look at are We Don't Play, who, like I said, was our week 1 champion here, and they got second place last week, and then Baguette, who was our week 2 champion. So far this season, they have been absolutely killing it. They did the previous one as well. But, for example, if you can kind of get a sense of where they're going to drop, you might want to stay away from them to try to get more points. But they as well might be so confident that they can start those early fights because we do see, of course, within this lobby, it is, like I said, it's a very risk-free tournament to enter, which is one of the things that makes it amazing, right? We get to see so many players that we didn't know were competitive, kings and queens and others that we now see as these super top players here within these tournaments. But there are a lot of people that they're trying to see if they like playing in tournaments, if they're really about the scene, so they might not be as comfortable fighting all these very strong competitive players that have now earned their spot within this series early on, and they might be kind of I don't want to say free points, but a little bit easier points if they're not ready to fight off the bat.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, again, it just depends on, there is still that factor of RNG in the map. Mm-hmm. So it depends on, you might land on a Mozambique and find nothing else other than attachments, which has happened before, and it will continue to happen because that is the beauty of Battle Royales. So we are looking at the character selections for all the teams, and we do see people picking the same sort of thing. I am interested to see that there are still Gibraltars being picked. Of course, we see Valkyrie all across the board. I am really happy to see Loba because Loba helps you get... Her ult is already pre-charged once you land. It's not all the way there, but it does help. It is 15% charged, I believe, once you land. So once you put down her ultimate, you can kind of loot 2 different POIs because King's Canyon is very small. So that helps you get into the fight even faster. So it makes me really happy to see Loba utilized even more. And her heirloom actually just dropped in this latest event as well that hit this Tuesday. So very happy to see people playing her. I think she's underutilized.
All right, and it looks like we might be restarting the lobby one more time. We're going to get it all set in stone so the rest of today for sure runs smoothly. But yeah, it's the Loba, it's the fan, right? I think I saw that just recently.
It's the fan with the little razor blades on the top. It's very cool. And she has this really cool animation where she's inspecting it and then she pulls out Revenant's head because there is a lot of lore. I can go into the lore. So if you are not aware, Revenant actually killed Loba's parents, which is why she's in the games now because my cat just left, because she wants to get revenge for her parents' death. And she actually found out that Revenant was in the Apex games, which is why she's here. She did find his source code because he is a simulacrum. So she found his source code, but she decided to make him live. So because he wants to die, So she sent out his source code to a place that like no one knows where it is, and now he has to live forever and like endure agony forever. So that's like her form of revenge. But anyway, she has in her inspect animation, she has the Revenant head and then like cuts it in half, and it's very brutal, and I love it.
Yeah, I honestly, I feel like kind of like that was like the start of where the lore like really started to get super deep within Apex. I was a big Apex lore fan for sure, so I love seeing like, for example, like stories like that continue, right? Because of course, when both characters came out, that wasn't like that. But of course, we are of course trying to set up this lobby. We're trying to make sure that everything is good. But in the meantime, we are going to take a small look at a video from, of course, the the two casters that we are replacing today. It's going to be Rainday and Girl. They had a small video for us, so let's check it out.
Now, it's time for Girl and I to do a little bit more talking and head into game in a segment we like to call Let's Play. We'll be talking about the stuff inside of the game and the firing range that we think is important for you to know. And Girl, it starts today with some weapons. We're going to talk a little bit about our favorite weapons, the weapons they should be playing here in the meta. As we get ready to load this thing up, we are here, and it's all starting with shotguns. Now, the EVA 8 kind of was a pretty popular shotgun, Girl, but what's the one that players need to be using here, whether it's PS4 or anywhere in the Apex Legends scene?
My personal favorite is the Peacekeeper. I think it really works well around corners, and it just does so much damage. So you're able to peek around corners, go for a nice headshot, does over 50 damage, normally get a 90 pump in the body, and then sometimes you can get like 121 there, like that in the head. So it's just such a consistent weapon, I would say. Easier to hit, and it hits hard, and it's really good when you're playing in bubbles or around corners.
Also has the kinetic feeder. It's a unique hop-up that hasn't really kind of gotten a lot of love, but as you are sliding, you're actually going to be reloading, and you're going to do something interesting, which is your choke on this PK is going to close faster. So it's actually, as you slide, that choke right there, if you pick up a little speed, slide, you're going to get some ammo back, and you're going to be able to choke it up pretty fast. That's a cool one, but really I think the weapon that has maybe stolen the show and is now back in after the latest patch, the ground loot from the Replicator, the R301. Does this take the cake for the light ammo weapon of choice, you think, Girl?
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. I did craft it last season, and I am playing it again this season. I feel like it's just such a consistent gun. Since it's an automatic rifle, it's not a sentinel, right? You can't just shoot one shot and completely miss. Normally, you hit most shots in a clip with the R301, most players. And it works well close range. You can just hip fire it when it's close range, or it works well mid range. Just a very versatile. And I think it's just one of those guns that you can rely on.
Yeah, and being able to rely on it too. You saw like the recoil. I let it go there. Comparing it to something like the R99, look at how much higher that recoil goes. Obviously shoots a lot faster, different body shots with the 11, and of course you're looking at headshots here somewhere around 17. So you do get a little bit less bang for your buck damage-wise, but in terms of controlling it, there's a lot of value over the R301. But let's talk about this. The R99, I mean, this used to be the weapon that everyone was told to play. You saw an R99, you saw a Wingman, you saw a PK. I mean, this was it, right, Girl? But suddenly something else has kind of stormed to the forefront. And I want to get your thoughts on the R99 versus car debate and why the car, in your eyes, if this is what you believe, has really taken the lead in that race.
Yeah, so the car outputs more damage, and it has the same clip size as the R99, but the car outputs more damage, and I think that's why everyone loves it more, just because of the damage output mainly. And it's easy. If you find a heavy attachment, you can place it on it. If you find a light attachment, you can place it on it. So it's not too hard to kind of kit up, and it's just about that damage.
And you can see, look, here the difference. You have a 20 headshot, and you have a, I believe, a 13 body shot, which is, when you compare it to the R99, you have an 11 body shot, so that's 2 less. And then you've got a 17 headshot. So when you're talking about having 27 in the magazine, we did the math earlier, it's about 54 more damage just to play the car, which I think is why most people have found it the weapon of choice, the SMG of choice. Plus, it takes both heavy and light ammo. which is a nice little thing. But girl, the weapon that I think is maybe never going to leave Apex Legends as one of the best, if not the best in the game. It's, of course, our friend the Wingman, who, like the car, has been moved into the Replicator to the chagrin of many console and PlayStation 4 fans. Why is this weapon always on top?
So this weapon's on top because of the amount of damage it outputs, the speed of how it shoots, but also those headshots. Like, as you can see, the headshot, 97 damage. That's an instant crack on most armors. And it's so good for when you're poking at an opponent. Like, so if you're in the building, they're in the building, they try and shoot back with an R3-1, they're not winning that trade. You're almost always winning. And the best thing about the Wingman is that you can most times get an entry with it. Just because it does that 97 damage, if you double headshot body shot someone, you're getting that entry, and then it's a 3v2 and should be a clean wipe.
Look at that. 3 shots, so efficient. Another thing I want to bring to all the attention, sometimes we don't look at it, all the weapons in Apex, they've got aim down sights speeds. Meaning if you run these heavier weapons and you're like, I love the Spitfire, it's good when you're firing, but when you're moving defensively, look at that. You slow down by about 50% of your movement speed. You're very, very easy to hit. The Wingman, look at that. Same speed whether you're aiming down sights or not. It's just like pistols and just like the Mozambique shotgun and most shotguns, which basically have a 90% to a 100% maintaining of the original speed that weapon does, whether inside or outside. So the movement feels so crisp, hard to hit, hits hard. I love that style of it. That's been a little bit of Let's Play.
And welcome back. We are just about done solving all of the issues with the lobby, so we thank everybody for hanging with us. But of course, that was a little clip there from dropping in with Rain Day and Girl, which of course is a recurring show. Not only do they have the, of course, like the segments like that where they're starting to talk about, you know, like what weapons are good, what's been changed, you know, over the I guess patch releases, but also, you know, they've got interviews with some of the players that we're for sure going to see today. Those interviews were really good. It was great to, you know, especially since they're lesser known overall than like some of the pro players from ALGS that you might see. It's great to hear like kind of like what their viewpoints in the game are, like what their histories are. But we've also had some players on there that are ALGS players or coaches, and getting their viewpoint as well alongside the somewhat lesser known pros, you could say. It's been a really good show, so look forward to the next one of those, or check out the ones that we haven't seen. And again, you can go to compete.playstation.com and you can see the archives for all of that. But again, just as a reminder, you know, of course, we're here in the place of Rain Day and Girl today. So we hope, especially we hope that Girl's doing really well, right? It's really tough weather out there for a lot of people right now, and she is for sure one of them. Hopefully, you know, she at least has some semblance of power. We don't. I know she tweeted about that. Her, well, she said RIP to all of my groceries. So hopefully she's good.
Yeah, I hope she's just hanging out, playing some Apex Mobile, which is really fun too. So, you know, I hope she's doing all right. I think she is, though, because we did see her tweet. So hopefully she is getting some very well deserved rest right now. So I have to ask you though, so you played Apex, and I know that you haven't really been able to play a lot this season, but who was your main character that you played, like when you were playing?
Oh, I mean, it really changed depending on the time, right? I mean, I've played throughout time, but let's think. I mean, definitely at the very start of the game, I was playing a lot of Lifeline. You know, I was a big Lifeline fan back then. You know, just playing.
Yeah.
I mean, especially in like pub lobbies, like she's just so valuable, especially early in the game's life, right? It was just too nice to have that, you know, that res with the shield and just that ability to just not have to find healing. But, you know, obviously a very different game than competitive, and I'm very glad that we're actually getting into the competitive game here. Looks like a few people just flying past the loot ship. Not sure if anybody's going to be targeting that.
No, usually the loot there is very supplementary, so you don't really want to be on that, and it's okay, but it's not the better place to land, especially. And actually, Crypto's area here, where we're looking at, it's actually very valuable because not only do you get some decent loot, you also get the map room where it shows you, once you trigger it, it shows you where everyone is on the map, which is incredible, and you get it for free.
Yeah, which can, I mean, that can affect your rotation so well. And of course, you've got kind of, both sides of the coast there to rotate on. I didn't get a chance to see where everybody dropped this time around. It doesn't seem like we're getting too many early fights. There's a few people kind of in a similar area you can actually see right here, but they haven't engaged yet. We do see a few people already getting some blue armor.
Yeah, so I will say, Kings Canyon, it's a little difficult to find proper armor sometimes, but they did change it so that the crafter, you only need to craft once to get from white shields, which you drop from, to get from white shields to blue shields. So that is really nice, and it looks like a lot of teams did actually opt to drop on crafting locations so they can get that armor, and anything else that may be in the crafter today, which I don't think we have access to currently, but yeah, we could probably do some research and see what's actually in the crafter today, because it does change daily, and then there are weekly crafting things like purple backpack or purple shield that does end up going into the crafter every week, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, I really like that strategy, especially here. I was mentioning earlier that, especially with the way that everybody was dropping in the previous, I guess you could say, drop, it looked like we were probably going to just be waiting for about one rotation for teams to start running into each other, kind of unavoidable. So I like trying to get that blue armor early with the crafting station. Makes a lot of sense. Here in the pit, got just one team dropping here. It looks like nobody's really contesting it. Nobody really seems to have contested too many spots. I do see the loot box up in the corner over there. I don't know what's going to be in it.
I know this is kind of off the rep, but like I love that two of the players have Mr. in their name. Like it's just so formal, and then the other one just has like a very YouTube name, like Romexo plays, and it's just really funny. It's like sir, and then your babysitting child, yes.
We actually tend to see kind of that a lot. We see a lot of like duos that find a trio for this. I think it's really easy for a lot of players to have like one friend that they play with a lot, and they're like, oh, let's try this tournament out. Again, it's free to enter. It's might as well just try it. But we just got to find like one person that we know. So yeah, you see right here, Mr. Profin, Mr. Namka, and then Romxo plays, Romxo plays. I'm not exactly sure to pronounce that. Sorry which I definitely already did mispronounce it. But yeah, I mean, this is We Don't Play, of course. This is one of the teams definitely to watch out for. Like I said before, the previous not the previous champion, they're our week 1 champion from this season, so they are without a doubt going to be seen a lot on the leaderboards here. They're also our second place in the previous week, so they've been overall the highest placers, you could say, throughout this season so far.
Yeah, I'm very excited to see how they'll play. And we do see a lot of teams still existing outside of the current circle. And as you can see, it is already closing in, which is kind of my point on Kings Canyon. It closes so fast and you want to rotate in because, again, the amount of rotation points that you have been minimized. So you really have to consider where you want to go early as soon as you drop. So you need to have a game plan. You have to be able to plan for anything, which is why a lot of people opt to drop kind of center, because then it's a lot easier to figure out where you want to go. But we do see a lot of Valkyrie teams, so they do have the rotations pretty easily, and it looks like we're seeing a loot exchange here, which is good. Working together as a team here. And Valkyrie does have her ultimate, so they can rotate in quickly, because rotating from here actually further into the map is kind of a pain, because it's just one of those locations where you're constantly going to get team after team in a choke. And it looks like Clippers is actually going into a fight here, trying to see where these shots are coming from. Maybe get some early KP.
Oh yeah, this may be kind of our first fight here of the lobby. Looks like there are a few shots getting popped off, and yeah, we're starting to kind of enter a fight here in a choke point. We've got RGB kind of sitting on the building. They've got some really nice high ground, but whichever team is down there in the Gibby Shield, that is a tough spot to be in. They are in between a tough ring, and I think two teams that are kind of staring them down.
Yeah, so this is what happens on Kings Canyon, is that you see RGB trying to hold out one team, but that now RGB is going to get held out by Clippers, and it's just this ongoing cycle that constantly happens, especially on Kings Canyon. And with the circle closure now, it's got to be one of those irritating things that you deal with. Now, we do see Clippers taking a little bit too much damage here on one of their teammates, so they are going to have to take this slowly, and they do know that they are surrounded by teams here.
Yeah, and this is actually really aggressive, seeing them push down into the ring as they're actually still pretty far from the end of the ring. I mean, not only do they have to fight these teams, they really want to get these early kill points, but they also are, I mean, they're going to be taking so much damage just trying to get back in. And look at this, they are going so deep here. This is extremely aggressive.
Yeah, and remember the circle now does damage from, it does 2 damage, and we do see one of the teammates actually going down because this circle damage is pretty rough. And if you're going to take fights outside, you better be able to bring all of your heals. And there you could actually see the new heal animation there that was implemented on Tuesday along with the new Loba Heirloom update, which is pretty cool. But it's one of those things where if you're going to be taking fights outside of the circle, you need all of the heals that you can get. And again, backpacks on this map are really hard to find. So either you have to craft it or you have to get lucky. And the new gold bag actually allows you to carry 3 big heal items. So 3 batteries in a stack and 3 medkits in a stack. So that is highly valuable, especially if you're a team that likes to take fights outside of the circle.
Yeah, and which we can already see from Clippers for sure. That was actually really scary. Their Bloodhound was 1 tick away from being downed before that medkit went off. And once again, they're playing it really risky here. I mean, I know they've got a decent amount of healing, but they're still pretty far from this ring. I cannot believe that they're still crafting. They're literally just crafting medkits over and over and seeing how long they can stay out here. I mean, hey, you know what? If you are literally like 2 times the size of the ring outside of the ring, at least you won't get third party.
Yeah, and to be fair, they do have Valkyries who can still rotate in, but they are going to have to continue running. And also, in competitive, heat shields are not allowed, which is why they're not able to use heat shields and stay out here or protect themselves in fights. So it's even more valuable for you to rotate into the circle as soon as possible and get these scans like Valkyrie is doing. So in any competitive match, one scan legend is just highly critical for any team to have.
Yeah, the circle that they're scanning is pretty far away, but it did seem like they were pretty healthy, and we are now, of course, moving into TXC, another team that has been playing for quite a while, and they are kind of on the edge of a fight. We are seeing them have just a slight high ground here. I don't know if there's going to be too much aggression here. It looks like the ring might come in before either team decides to push. We do know that TXC can be a pretty aggressive team. We saw Sarah Sutcliffe in particular pull off a really, really ridiculous 1v3 in an aggressive, like, early drop situation. But they're just taking some pot shots at each other right now.
Yeah, it looks like TXC is trying to get a little bit closer here. I think they do want a full send. Now, this is the aggression that I said I absolutely love from the EMEA region. Just, they are not afraid to send in, and they are pretty confident in their abilities. But it does look like they aren't fully committed just yet. They are trying to find the perfect angle, and unfortunately, Sarah does take a full shield crack and does have to back off.
Yeah, luckily there is that mobility. One of the biggest things that we've seen from this series in general is that the Valk players there are a lot of really strong Valk players. Their movement is extremely good, and it's important to remember that, of course, this is going to be all on PS4, so it's going to be all on controller players. That's why we see, for example, a lot of Horizons as well. Just the vertical play is really, really strong in a lot of these lobbies, which, of course, Valk already being a strong legend is just, it gets that extra bonus, and these Valks really lead a lot of the plays from these teams.
Yeah, so Valkyrie also was given a slight nerf, but it's not super apparent until you start using her passive, which is her jump jets. Her fuel does run out a lot faster now, but I mean, a good Valkyrie player will be able to ration that out. And look at this tiny location. This is what I'm talking about on Kings Canyon. You see a small location where so many teams exist. We see 3 teams here just looking at each other, and we do see that Toucan actually has white shields, which does not bode well for that team. Everyone can look down at them and kind of decide to full send on them, but we see teams at each layer, so no one is able to make any full moves yet. So it's just, Kings Canyon is either a bloodbath, or it's kind of a stalemate.
Yeah, and just looking at the map aside, none of these 3 teams have any real safe rotations from this spot. They're going to have to run through the fire of, I'd say, like maybe about 2 or 3 other teams. There is actually some pretty heavy aggression happening in Skulltown right now. There's a fight even, I think, happening outside of the ring, so they might not be as much of a threat, but just trying to make it into this final ring. I mean, I guess none of them are being forced out by the ring that we're just seeing right now, but yeah, I mean, somebody's going to have to make a move here, and it's so scary. Like you said, with 3 teams here, the first team to make the move is going to be at such a disadvantage. They're going to be putting themselves out into the open for both the other teams to fight.
Yeah, a lot of the times when the first team that decides to push it initiates, they are going to be the team that does end up getting eliminated first. But we do see that with Ring 3 closing, they have a minute and a half to move. I mean, they are within just the range of the circle, so they might be okay, but it is a lot of teams. Just, it's a lot of noise. And here's the thing on Kings Canyon, you can hear stuff from across the map, so you do need to be careful about how much ammo you are expending and how much noise you're making, because you are going to get another team coming over. So yeah, it's gonna be interesting seeing how these teams decide to rotate in. We do see Baguette not inside circle and having to rotate in where a lot of teams are already existing, so it may not be great for them. And they might actually end up getting shot at by multiple teams here.
Yeah, once again, they don't really have like a safe rotation into this final ring, and you can see it right now. They've really got to decide, do they want to try to fight through the other side of bunker, or they want to just back up? I mean, they do have a little bit of time before the ring starts closing, but clearly the team that is kind of drawn their eye to them has a pretty good angle. And I mean, that's such a hard spot, right? There's like such little cover to try to push that area. I don't know what their best option is going to be here. I mean, they don't have very much time if they want to try to circle around to the other side of bunker. It looks like they're not going to commit to that. They want to stay on this side. They've got a little bit of cover, but I mean, time's running out.
Yeah, luckily Valkyrie's ultimate does let her stay a little bit lower on launch, so they could totally rotate from there. Does look like we are seeing the team just outside of market starting to actually try and push in here, but no one is actually fully committed to this push quite yet, but you do see them pushing in here. I'm not entirely sure who all these teams are, but we do see that the team occupying the building, they are getting cracked a little bit. TXC looking a little healthier here, but they're not fully sending, even though they're healthier. They're not fully sending this fight.
Yeah, this is strange. I mean, they've already pushed in so far, but they're kind of just leaving them at one spot in the room. Okay, they did wait for the Seer ult. Maybe that's their kind of sign to really push this aggression. I was mentioning it earlier, TXC, it can be a very, very aggressive team. They're one of those teams that will be, probably we're going to see at least one early fight from them later in today. But I'm not surprised that they ended up being the one pushing. I'm surprised. I don't know where this third team went. I don't know if they got wiped that was down there. It looks like I don't even see them on the map anymore, so that perhaps it was a fight that we did miss, and this is kind of like the remainder of it. But, I mean, they're all just sitting in that same building without fighting. This is, I don't know. I'm surprised they haven't fully pushed it. It looks like they have the numbers advantage, too.
Yeah, that was very strange, and they just decided to... The Seer Q came out a little bit late there, which does stop your healing and any actions that you are doing, but it wasn't enough, and now they are fully healed, and I don't know if they're trying to grind for damage here or something, but it's very weird that they didn't push and finish the fight because they absolutely had the numbers and had the health to do so. Now we do see this... Ooh, absolute beamage here from this team outside of Skulltown. Now, this is the revised Skulltown that does exist here now, and like that was an absolute demolisher of a shot. And we just see all those teams still existing outside of Skulltown, which is kind of where the circle is drawing into, just half in out of circle, or half in out of Skulltown and half out, which is going to be absolutely disgusting.
Yeah, I mean, we just saw the video with Rain Day talking about the R301, and yeah, for a very good reason. We're going to see a lot of these R301s, and if you have the aim, it is absolutely a laser, like you just said. But we're getting now to a spot where a lot of teams are converging on this north side of Skulltown. I mean, that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like 5 or 6 different teams right there. This is such a chaotic fight. I mean, let's talk about third parties. How about sixth parties? And the verticality of this fight too, because they're kind of right on these cliffs. Just trying to get the thirst here, trying to confirm those points. But Viper Squadron, another very strong team, looking very, very healthy within the range of this fight.
Yeah, we do see all of the teams kind of having to fight here to secure a spot in the fourth circle as it's closing. And we do see a lot of teams not having a lot of cover to play with. I mean, this is just kind of out in the open. We do see Viper Squadron wiping yet again. Another team, Synthwave Nation, is now out. And Viper Squadron looking pretty strong here as they just continue moving through each squad they seem to come through. So they are actually, and their shields are not too far off from getting reds, so we know that they've been doing a lot of damage, and they are pretty healthy right now. They're looking really good. They have a lot of ammo. Holding 2 light guns, though, that is an interesting call. We do see that Koopy was also eliminated, and we are down to 8 squads as round 4 is closing.
Yeah, this is a very chaotic final circle, though. There's of course that like one little encampment there, but once that you're outside of that encampment, realistically, the only cover that you can get is the coverage kind of from the Skulltown rocks, and this is a tough choke point. Wow, that ring doing so much damage, and look at this. It looks like that's going to be an entire team falling to the ring right there. And yeah, Dusty Penguins being eliminated there. And we're down now to still 7 squads, but I mean, this is a spot where they're really going to have to fight. I mean, this is a very much a no-cover spot.
Yeah, we do see Viper was actually taken down as well, taken out at 7th place, and now it's down to 5 squads with Baguette also getting eliminated. It's honestly down to whoever was here first. We Don't Play had secured their location here, and they are holding their ground pretty strong. And playing Bangalore on Kings Canyon is actually great because you get so much ground coverage as you run through the areas. But we do see that there are quite a few teams here looking at each other.
Yeah, and this team, Tamaman, which I'm not as familiar with, not a team that I've seen before, they have such an advantageous position here. I mean, they can still stay within that encampment. It looks like TXC is fighting here, kind of on both sides of here. We're going to see the Horizon ult be popped, but nobody really going down. It looks like there's going to be some time to heal, and TXC really kind of holding this rotation point that everybody's going to have to go through, both these other teams, as they're going to try to make it to this final ring. So that could be a good spot, but there's a chance they could get overwhelmed. I mean, this is just so many like multi-team fights here, just not even in the final ring, just heading to it.
Yeah, this is, I mean, we do see a lot of teams that are surviving still have Valkyrie, but I don't think I've seen a lot of Valkyrie ults being utilized. So, and going towards 5th circle, right before the final circle closes, it is very difficult to use Valkyrie properly without getting absolutely beamed out of the air. And her ultimate is also a lot slower, so it's easier to hit her as she is using her ultimate. So I think we're going to be seeing a lot of teams just try to run in, and it's going to be an absolute mess here because, yeah, there's just not a lot to use as cover, and you just kind of have to take these fights and win, which we do see We Don't Play doing here, following up with a car. But they still do have to find a position inside.
Yeah, and that's going to be so tough. Like I said, we do have that one team kind of within the encampment that has a little bit of a high ground. You know, you can see them there. They're standing on the buildings. On top of that, we have another team that's even to the northeast of them that is also within the final ring. So we're seeing Viper Squadron, or sorry, not Viper Squadron. We're seeing We Don't Play be, I mean, really just in a tough spot. They're just so good at shooting, though. I mean, there's really no other way to put it. They're just such excellent players that they're managing to push this without really losing very much. They're still very healthy. And wow, that was a really aggressive push out from that Horizon. That's going to be one more team down, only 3 left, and everybody's started to find their spaces. I think this is 3 fully healthy teams. We've got 3, 3, and 3, I believe, and now it just all comes down to who's got the better cover here. And Hakim's, oh no, I'm sorry, there's only 2 on Hakim's side. They do have a pretty good spot here, though, behind this rock.
Yeah, and they do have a Seer, so they are able to see where everyone is, which is great. Seer on Kings Canyon is just absolutely deadly because it is a smaller map. We do see them trying to fully heal, though. They are getting pushed out, and they might actually be the first team to be eliminated because everyone else knows that is a duo here. And We Don't Play has full red shields. They're looking pretty healthy. And we do see that Namka is the kill leader with 8 kills. And yeah, Hackins was eliminated, and now it's down to the top 2 squads here to fight. And look at that beautiful Horizon ultimate coming in, absolutely shredding this enemy team here. And We Don't Play is the champion for the first match of the day for EU.
Wow, that last push was so aggressive, but honestly, I mean, I would argue that We Don't Play was in the worst position of even maybe like the final 5 teams. They were in one of the toughest spots. You know, they had to make that entire rotation from Skulltown, but I mean, I mentioned it earlier, there's really no other way to put it. They're just so good at their individual skill, right? Like their aim is incredible. We saw them melting so many different players, and they literally just fought their way through without taking very much damage at all. I mean, they had to run kind of out in the open. They were in the ultimate low ground, I would say, of that final ring. But, you know, when they made their push, it was just literally just a few seconds. And there wasn't even that kind of like back and forth of a final fight. They just dominated. And like you said, going from kill leaders to winning the game, without a doubt, they are very, very much ahead after this game. A lot of the other teams that we expect to see do very well got eliminated a little bit earlier, like Baguette, but We Don't Play. I mean, they really just, all they can say, they fought their way through without even having the best position in those finals rings.
Yeah, I mean, I think that when the final ring started closing, they had a lot more cover to play with than the other teams did because Hakim only had the 1 rock. The other team also had half of a rock to work with, and We Don't Play had that full like boulder setup, which it's not a lot. But like in terms of final circle, it is quite a bit to work with. Also, they use their Valkyrie and Horizon ultimates, or Valkyrie Qs and Horizon ultimates perfectly, which was great. And they were very lucky that all the teams that they and the opposite team that was full decided to look at Hakeem, which was only a duo squad, which was great. So I'm very curious to see how all the kills will tally up for We Don't Play, because I believe they ended at, well, when we looked, it was 8 as kill leader, but that's not the whole team total. So I'm very excited to see how that is going to look for them in this first match here.
Right, yeah, especially, I mean, I feel like that fight out of Skulltown, they earned a lot of frags. And yeah, for sure, I agree with you. You know, once they got to that final circle, they were in like the least, for sure, like exposed spot, especially the fact that the duo was kind of in an unfortunate spot where they could all be kind of targeted. But yeah, I more so meant like the fight up into that final circle. They had to run through with like very little cover, and I mean, it's just been so impressive. Synthwave Nation, another team that did really well, actually, that we just saw on the replays. I didn't mention them as it was happening, but they were doing quite well, and they're not a team that I've seen too much on this broadcast before, maybe just a few times. But I mean, We Don't Play, very, very much earning this. I'm very excited as well to see just how many points they're going to get from eliminations, as well as, of course, that guaranteed first place spot. The other, I'm not even familiar with the team that got second, but I mean, that's one of the things about these broadcasts, is that we get to see teams that we're not familiar with, and they can really show you some new stuff throughout the day.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited to look at these stats here. Look at Namka absolutely carrying with the 2,000 damage. He had 9 kills and 3 assists. And we do see that everyone on the team did help with these assists here as well. And yeah, this is absolutely really cool to see. You do see that Namka is the top fragger, which kind of makes sense with a Bangalore who moves very quickly, is able to get in and out of fights very fast. Also using her Q to give her more of coverage as she gets out of fights. So yeah, absolutely top of the leaderboard with the 9 kills on Namka alone.
Yeah, and then another 5 throughout the rest of the team. So that's going to be a really, really solid lead going into today. And it can be very, very tough to stay consistent throughout the day. Of course, we do see like pretty solid consistency with like elimination points, for example. But anything can happen. Anything can happen in a game of Apex. So getting that early lead is very, very important. We've seen a lot of times before where a team will get a very strong early lead. They won't do too well for the rest of the day, but that's enough for them to just place pretty well, maybe 1 more dub, maybe 2 more dubs, and take the entire thing. But yeah, they are ahead by a solid amount. Tom Amon, that's a team that I said I was not as familiar with, but they played very well as well. They were up there with the 5 frags. They, of course, held that position extremely well in that final circle. And then Baguette, of course, to being up there just purely, though, basically through elimination points. If you see that, 7 elims, only 3 placement points, which is the lowest of the top 7 even.
Yeah, and that was kind of my point earlier when we were talking about the point system, is that even though they should have been 4th, they ended up getting 3rd because Hakeem's, who was 3rd in that last match, didn't get enough kills. They only had 2 eliminations and weren't able to secure more points than 9, and ended up being in 4th place now overall. So it's one of those things where as soon as you start placing top, you need to start getting those eliminations in, because otherwise you're going to get kicked out of your position very quickly.
Yeah, we've seen some games, especially too in these lobbies. There have been some games, and I'd expect that we might see it, especially being back here on Kings Canyon, where there have been just an unbelievable amount of frags from one specific team, and regardless of whether they win or not, which they tend to, it just pushes them so far ahead. And we've seen teams that have, for example, even just like won only a single time throughout a 5 or 6 game day, take the entire thing because they are just that aggressive. So the frags help out tremendously. But that was a great first game. If it's your first time here on the on this particular circuit, the master circuit here, what did you think of the players here in EU? Were they as aggressive as you had hoped?
I think so, but I think Kings Canyon honestly kind of dampers it a little bit, because that once you send into a fight, you're going to have to fight another squad that decides to come in, because it's very easy to rotate in from another POI, especially since you can hear the shots from like across the map. So I think they played about as well as about the same as how my ranked matches have been going. It's kind of a slower warm-up, and that you can't take all the fights immediately, but then as soon as you start getting to circle 3 and 4, that's when the fights really start happening, because you can't coexist in the same space as someone on Kings Canyon, and you see a lot of people having to fight for survival and losing out some of those fights there.
Yeah, I feel like some of the teams might still be a little bit uncomfortable with, I guess, maybe the confidence of when to take fights. I mean, we saw that entire, like the 3 building settlement to the northeast of Skulltown, where we saw the 3 teams just each sitting in a building, and nobody was really pushing anybody. We finally saw one push, and then they didn't commit to it, and I'm not even sure if they really ended up taking that fight, because I believe the team that was getting pushed was the one that had Toucan, who ended up getting 3rd place. So I mean, it's not necessarily like it's a good choice to make the push, but you can tell that there's a little bit of hesitation, I think, from some of the teams at least, as far as like, do we really want to do this? Is this really the moment we want to take? And it created some awkward spots. I feel like, you know, in our previous maps where maybe the teams are a little bit more confident. Again, you know, it's pretty new as far as things go. So just even like, you know, knowing when to comfortably rotate and just having the competitive experience on the map, they might not be there quite yet. So I feel like on the previous maps, there would have been a lot more confidence of like, okay, yeah, let's push right now. Let's take this fight. Let's go over here. And we're still seeing, I think, some of these teams get a little bit more used to it, which is totally understandable. And in my opinion, I think that's really cool. I love seeing people adapt to something new, you know, and see how, especially, you know, when you have 5 games throughout the day, like you can learn things over time and be like, okay, you know, we didn't fully commit to our push there. Maybe we should have. We were a little bit low. We had good points, you know, with kills, but we didn't get as many elimination points as maybe we wanted, so we could have taken that there. Or maybe we should have just moved out earlier and got to a better position. And it's exciting to see how people are going to change it up, especially with those 3 particular teams. One of them being TXC, who we're very familiar with here.
Yeah, TXC decided not to push in that fight there, which was interesting, but I think it's because they knew that there was another team that was existing up on the hill that could absolutely send in, and they wanted to be 100% healthy. But in doing that, they also kind of robbed themselves of extra points that they could have gotten, and they were also healthier, but they didn't know that at the time and didn't push in and trust their instincts, which with a Seer, you definitely should be throwing out your Q as often as possible, because it gives you the actual stats of their health and shield status, and you stop any possible heals that they might be doing, or ultimates or reses. So seeing a lot of Seers here not really utilizing their Qs at the right times was a little bit of why some of these teams did get taken out in these fights, but hopefully we see more of that being utilized properly. And I want to see more Valkyrie ultimates being used, because I don't think we really saw any, at least not in the observer feed where people were rotating in, because we do see a lot of people just running in into the circle.
Yeah, that was very strange to me. I mean, you know, you were mentioning it, of course. I mean, regardless of the map, Valk ult is invaluable for rotations, but especially on a map where, you know, there can be some very scary moments to try to rotate around. You know, we saw that, for example, like that fight that was on the northeast side of Bunker. I was surprised that we didn't see maybe potentially a Valk ult there. But I mean, hey, you know, maybe it happened off camera. Maybe we just didn't get a chance to see them. For sure, we've seen a lot more. Or it could come down to the fact that they're like, you know, maybe they're not confident in their choice. Maybe they're like, we really don't know if we should commit to using this right here. We might need it later for a different rotation. We might need it soon. So maybe confidence will build over time, and we'll end up seeing a little bit more of that. But you know, you were mentioning Seer, and we do see a lot of Seer typically especially from EU in this circuit. We see a lot less from NA. It's interestingly enough, the Legend meta is pretty different, but we did just get to see a lot of Seers picked, for example, on that selection screen right there.
Yeah, I would argue that after ALGS, Seer has become way more popular to use, because he does give you scans all the time, as opposed to just when Bloodhound has to activate the scan. Now, Bloodhound scan is a little bit more, he does give you the tracking, and they are able to give you a little bit more information on like where they are immediately, but with Seer, you don't have to do that Q scan. You don't have to wait for a cooldown, and you are able to kind of get the idea of where people are. And once you hit with the Q, you are able to, which I realize I'm saying Q because I play on PC, and I know this is a PlayStation tournament, but I don't know what the button is, so I'm saying Q. Y'all know what I mean. The tactical, yeah, once you do hit them with that, you are able to get a lot more information than what Bloodhound would be able to give you.
Yeah. I mean, for sure. I mean, Seer obviously extremely strong, but that's one of the interesting things about this, right? Is that the meta, especially having, and I was speaking on it a little bit earlier, but having entirely a controller lobby, because this is all on PS4. The character meta, the Legend meta, is slightly different than we'd expect from, from something like ALGS, and by slightly, I mean actually pretty significant. And also, it's different, of course, from just seeing like an entire public lobby, for example, on a PS4. There's this interesting mix of like, what does controller bring? Oh, and we're actually seeing a very early fight here. Synthwave Nation, who I believe actually might be a team that's named differently. I do remember that name, Soul SCN, but they're starting off some fights early here in Swamp.
Yeah, as Swamps is a pretty big POI that you do want to have all of the loot for, so sharing that with another team can be kind of not great for your team as well. And you can rotate out of here with one of the few balloons, redeploy balloons here. Looks like they are trying to push in, but they might not be able to fully chase here because they do have a Bangalore who is able to move pretty quickly out of that location. So it looks like they are trying to rotate out and away from this team and kind of give them their space, this is one of the things that happens on King's Canyon. If you don't have good loot, you do want to rotate away from the fight you were originally taking, which they do. Oh, Bite Sneak is the other team that was actually in that fight, and they do have a Loba, so maybe they might be able to siphon the loot from her ultimate, but I don't know if they're able to do that right now. Right now, they are considering moving away from this POI since their teammate was just eliminated.
Yeah, but we're actually going to see another pretty big fight up here, and we've already seen actually some pretty decent gear up from Baguette, who's already kind of melting this other team. Actually, there's actually even a third team up here, which I didn't see. The potential for them to jump in here is pretty high. It looks like they might be kind of like below on ground level. I'm not sure if they're actually going to continue this fight here. Rat Kings, which is an amazing team name, I gotta say. They can at least build up a little bit of damage, but maybe not. Getting taken out very quickly, at least for their healthiest split.
Yeah, it looks like, Baguette is looking really strong here. They have the high ground, and they've been able to overlook all these teams trying to approach them. So they are able to win these fights out here, but they haven't really secured a full team wipe yet. So they are securing all the KP that they can. It looks like Baguette at least has 2 kills right now, but they do have that scan legend Crypto to tell them where someone is immediately. Looks like they are trying to finish off the squads here, and Dusty Penguins was eliminated. Unfortunate. They were out at 15th place, which does not get you any placement points.
Yeah, just outside of even getting the 1, which is unfortunate. But yeah, that was a very early fight. And another one of those teams, Baguette, this is a team that has been very aggressive over time. And there's not really too many great, I think, places to run away if you all drop that close over there. It looked like maybe some of those teams didn't really want to commit to that fight, but they had to. It does look, now that we can see the map over here, it looks like We Don't Play is over at Runoff, and they've got so much space around them. Nobody dropped by them. They can loot forever. It looks like there's a few POIs that nobody really dropped at, unless people already rotated out, but it looks like pretty much, kind of like the south end of the map and the northeast end of the map are very busy, and everybody says they don't want to deal with We Don't Play. They're like, you're too good. You won last game. Let's get away from you.
Yeah, I mean, the loot on that side is honestly not that great. So it is good to see people spreading out, but it does mean that the right side of the map does get a little bit more populated. And we do see that there are only about 3-4 squads that are actually in the circle. So the teams that do post up there, hopefully they found some good loot. Caustic usually has some good loot, but there is going to be some fighting there. We do see a team actively going towards Caustic treatment, which can be a very close claustrophobic fight. And we do see that someone already has a Kraber off drop from Left Fight Club, which I have not seen a Kraber in my games in so long.
That's very impressive. And they also, it's interesting to see the Rampart, I gotta say, from the Fight Club. You're saying that's a good name team. We got a lot of great name teams here, but yeah, this is a nice spot to be at. I mean, getting the Kraber early, having the Rampart to potentially hold down some of these spots. I mean, this is a pretty interesting team makeup in general, with the Lifeline as well. But they've got a nice little spot. Oh, can we get a shot? That's the question. Who's gonna be ready for a Kraber shot this early? Certainly not me. Ooh.
So they did get the crack. And now, if you haven't played this season, the Kraber was also actually nerfed. So you do have to hit a straight headshot, but also with the values of the helmet will reduce the damage. So a headshot may not down an enemy, which is kind of upsetting. But, I get it. They're doing it for the competitive integrity.
Yeah, although we do have the extremely rare situation of potentially, well, maybe not now. Hold on. All right, they're getting pushed in. And yeah, only one person left on the Fight Club. And that is going to be a free Kraber for somebody on the other team. It looks like that might have been Neon Synthwave there. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Neon Synthwave is fighting over here on the tower. But yeah, that's going to be a free little loot drop. I was going to say we could have potentially seen the Rampart wall increase the damage to guarantee the down from the Kraber, which is pretty rare, but that's neither here nor now.
Yeah, no, we do see Tamam trying to win this fight here, but Synthwave also, I think it's going to be a 1v1 here. So they are actively trying to shield heal as much as possible, but they have more teams overlooking them, so it doesn't even matter who survives as they are going to get thirded. Ta not looking so great. Zephyr having to fully disengage, but does get eliminated here. And that is the end for that team out at 13th place. And we do see Diaz trying to win this extra fight here, but he does down one, but he's going to have to finish this and get that shield swap, but he does get eliminated, and Synthwave is out. And now we have one team left at Cage. And I absolutely hate this location because they also changed this to be so open. So now anyone can third party and look at this fight here.
Yeah, this is, I mean, it was already, even, you know, before those walls were gone, it was like a very easy spot to kind of notice fighting in, and you get just everybody just kind of circling around and the cover on the sides. But yeah, like especially now I could see that for sure. I mean, there was definitely a lot of elimination points earned in that little spot, but I mean, it's really like, it's the Thunderdome, right? Like, two teams go in, one team goes out, and that one team that comes out is probably not super healthy, which is why we ended up seeing I guess the solo left, which I do think they got the thirst. I think they got the elimination points for that, but I mean, I don't know if it was worth it overall.
Yeah, it's just one of those situations where you know you're not going to win the next fight, so you do everything you can to try and secure any sort of points. So it's and you hope that another team does get eliminated while that's happening, but it's just unfortunate because once you get stuck in one of those points, you just cannot leave that area. So it's one of those things of just knowing again when to push a fight and knowing that you're going to be stuck there for quite some time. Which is why I'm surprised that I don't see more caustics on this map. Which this map is perfect for caustic. Especially being able to bunker down and fight continuously in one location. You kind of need a caustic or a different bunker legend, which is why you saw Rampart not do so well, because she didn't have anyone else to follow up the walls with, because once they're over that wall, they're not going to be able to, like, that is not going to help you at all. So and we do see Viper Squadron, a team that did really well last match, also pushing into a fight here.
Yeah, they've got a nice high ground here. We'll see how they facilitate this push. They do have, of course, the Seer, who we do see has the legendary armor. But we don't... Oh, wait, okay, hold on a minute. That's going to be a Seer versus another Seer. I'm trying to figure out which team's inside of there. There's actually... Oh, no, this is actually just going to be two full teams. It looks like this might be the Hakim team. They're doing pretty badly, to be 100% honest here. They got downed. Kind of hard to follow this fight from the outside, but there's going to be enough time to res. It looks like they're not being pushed from inside. They're just kind of hold their ground. But I do believe the other team's pretty healthy.
Yeah, if you remember, there weren't that many teams that were inside of the caustic treatment area. So these fights were very isolated. A lot of the teams are still outside of the circle and fighting their way in, which is, again, one of the things that happens on Kings Canyon is that some people may not be close to these circles that are closing. So they end up taking a lot of fights outside of circle, not able to rotate in, and then it circles this feed of constantly being outside, always playing defensive, and never being able to find a position inside. So luckily that team was able to eliminate Hakim, and they are going to be rotating in pretty easily. They're going to be fine because they took an isolated fight, which is so important on Kings Canyon to secure your KP, especially going into 9 squads left.
Yeah. Sorry, I got a little bit confused looking at the map. I was looking at the wrong set of teams. I was like, is there still a team in there? Why are they still healthy? But yeah, they were completely eliminated. But like you said, now only one team. There's going to be one more team pushing sort of down to that caustic area, and it looks like I'm assuming that's a Valk ult that's moving down TXC. We see Sarah Sutcliffe there on the map. They were moving over that terrain pretty quickly, so we might have seen at least our first one that we can guess was a Valk ult, and that's going to put them in a pretty decent spot. This is going to be within this next ring. I think this sort of northwest area, kind of over by Market, is starting to get really hectic.
Yeah, so we do see that this game is a little bit faster, considering a lot of people dropped way outside of the circle, and there were a lot more fights and eliminations going in as the second circle closed. So we do see that there are less people having to exist in a space, but still, it's enough, especially on Kings Canyon, that you are going to be seeing lots of fights on the outskirts of the circle.
Yeah, well, we are seeing potentially a fight here right on the outside circle, like you were saying, but it looks like maybe they're just taking some pot shots here, not really committing to any sort of push. They did have that really nice high ground, and they didn't really have to move, so maybe just build up shields. It does look like Viper Squadron 4C TV already has the red shield. One of their teammates downed, though, which is really unfortunate. Not going to be too many available reses this far in.
Yeah, it's going to be one of those unfortunate things where they probably have to play as a duo. But I mean, duos have won tournaments before, so we'll just see how they do. I mean, they do look pretty healthy with shields, but now we are seeing all the teams that are kind of going to be holding down these buildings just stay here, and no one else is going to be able to get into their range, which kind of sucks because we did see We Don't Play have this position originally, but now they were pushed out and they don't have a spot inside, so they're going to have to play on the outside of these buildings and not have a lot of cover.
Yeah, it's a pretty awkward spot for sure. There are basically like 3 buildings within that encampment, and it seems like there's probably one team at least within each of them. Looks like they're taking some pot shots at each other kind of in the background, and we're going to see actually We Don't Play making an interesting rotation to a very different spot within the circle. As these teams are fighting, I saw somebody falling down right there. As these teams are fighting, nobody's really committing to anything. I think everybody wants to see kind of when they have to move first. No reason to take a huge risk at this point. But we are seeing, We Don't Play moving very far northwest, which we'll get to later.
Yeah, so Viper did end up getting their teammate back, but they only have white shields, which is not great. So it's going to be one of those things of just splitting up the loot, and they don't have a Loba, and at this point, getting loot, you're going to have to eliminate a full enemy just to get something for that team, but unfortunately, I don't think they're going to be able to do that here, so they're going to be playing with white shields for the rest of the map. And Deja Vu down to a duo, not looking so good outside of the circle, trying to find any space to move in, but I don't know if they're going to be able to survive this. He needs to pop a heal or something, but they do get eliminated at 8th place, unfortunately. That's Deja Vu.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. Just 1 foot away, basically, from the ring right there, to even just try to get one solo out to rat for some placement points. But yeah, that ring is just a little bit too powerful. So we are going to see pretty much just these core teams left. Everybody's starting to fight for their position within the getting closer to the final ring. And it actually looks like there's a little bit of a fight kind of over north more by Market. I don't know if any of the teams are going to commit there. I think right now it's just pot shots, especially, having the white shield on, not on this team, but, on the other team. This is a great spot for, if you have the ammo, just to kind of take some pot shots through some windows, trying to build up the armor. I mean, we see on Kubi 2 people still with blue armor, so I'm sure they want the same thing as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think they'll be able to get that, or at least be able to get shield swaps before, but we'll see, because they still need to move in. And even though this distance into the circle doesn't seem like a lot, with Ring 4, the ring is going to start damaging you quite significantly. So if you're not a movement legend, you are going to want to move now. And it looks like they are actually being gate kept out with this team fight, so they may not be able to make it in.
Yeah, now this is a pretty tough spot. They are going to have to make a very committal push, a very aggressive push, and they don't. I mean, I'm not sure if they have the ult up from the Valk. That might be a decent option. I'm not sure if you can get it over that cliff that's over to the east of them, but they might be able to get a kind of a rotation spot from the east. But there's going to be a push on them, and we're going to see White Paint Powder escape, but just barely. And wow!
Oh no!
Did it survive? Oh no!
He didn't make
that's rough.
Yeah, he didn't make the wall jump, which was unfortunate. But yeah, I don't think a Valk ult would have saved them here either. And this is actually from our previous champs of the last game coming in to clean up house. And unfortunate there that I don't think. Yeah, this is the case with the Valk ults when you start doing it towards round 4, because everyone can see you and your ultimate goes up a lot slower, so you are able to get an absolute beam on the Valkyrie and potentially down them. So Yeah, it seems like they are opting to save their ammo, though, because he only has 109 extra shots left, and Namka is the top fragger for that team, so he does want to have all the ammo he can get.
Yeah, and that R301 can run out very, very quickly for sure. We did see that. I mean, that was such a perfect example of what you're talking about, of just being able to beam people, get a little bit of that extra damage on somebody who's going up with the Valk ult, make it less safe for them when they're landing, and whatever that rotation is. But we still see, I mean, even with a weird, strangely, I guess, low amount of Valk ults, we're still seeing just the combat ability of Valk be very, very strong within this lobby. And the final circle is starting to show itself. It looks like those buildings are almost all going to be unsafe, so we are going to see some sort of rotations from pretty much everybody moving up. And, you know, there was an interesting choice to rotate so far to the north from We Don't Play, but they're in now potentially a really good position. I think those rocks over there that they're going to have are going to be some pretty nice cover, but they can just chill as this fight's happening.
Yeah, we do see an active fight here with the huge Seer ult, but it looks like that team did win. They are pushing into another team here. Viper not looking so great, down to one person, does get the heal canceled, and they have to try and scramble and heal here before they get sent on. We Don't Play, just taking some bullet shots here, but they are looking fine. They're not really looking to commit. They do have some KP. They are looking to try and just play for placement here because it does matter. And I was curious where the Kraber went. Here it is, Baguette. Obelix with the Kraber here, trying to get some shots off on We Don't Play, but unfortunately cannot seem to find that connect there. So we see a lot of teams playing the outskirts of where the circle is going to be because they haven't really figured out how to get there because, again, it's just kind of a mess. We do have 4 squads in this tiny circle left, and we're going to see some eliminations right now.
Yeah, this is the moment. And honestly, that Kraber, it might start to get a little bit too close for comfort to even use that. So I think if we don't see like a great shot here, we might not see it as much moving in. I mean, that would have been a really good opportunity, right? Like I said, We Don't Play. Obviously, they have been leaving the lobbies and they have such a good position. So being able to potentially have downed one of them would have been huge. We didn't end up seeing it. They were playing pretty safe, moving around pretty safely, not allowing that one tap. I mean, they probably could have rezzed anyway, but now they're going to hold this great position as everybody's going to start to move in. Like you said, 4 squads left, and with the smokes here, this is just utter chaos.
Yeah, it looks like Baguette is having to fight for this building here. They're doing a great job holding off, but unfortunately, I don't know if that's going to be enough. We do see that Tay is taking a little bit too much damage. Ob also taking too much here, but is kill leader. So if they do get eliminated here, they are going to have quite a bit of KP. Horizon Ultimate does come out to try and wall off that one room, but they do get eliminated at 3rd place. So they did get 1 extra placement here. Now we do see We Don't Play coming in for the last fight.
Yeah.
3v2.
Yeah, this is looking really good for them, although, hold on. TXC actually really melting them very quickly, turning around from that other fight extremely well. It looked like they got kind of chunked in that second and third place fight, but they've got a great spot, and Sarah Sutcliffe, again, like I said, an amazing player that we've seen great play from time to time again, holding this high ground, along with Raymond. They're going to get a little bit of a heal up. I don't know if they're going to have a safe time to res here, but just their positioning is looking very, very strong, and We Don't Play down to just Mr. Profin, and they're not going to be able to pull it off, despite having that great position. It is going to be TXC who wins in the end. Very, very nice play. The fact that, I mean, they were technically third-partied, I believe, within that last fight, you could kind of say, and they turned that around so extremely well against a very healthy team.
Yeah, TXT is one of those teams that I wanted to see show up in the first match, and I'm glad that they did for the second, because they definitely have the firepower there. They were able to wait really patiently, wait for the other teams to kind of fend off that building and then move in, which was great. Yeah, We Don't Play did pretty well as well, but I mean, it's one of those things where the final circle just gets so chaotic that you just kind of have to push in and you have no idea where to go, but you just have to kind of be there. So we did see a lot of teams scrambling there, but I mean, kudos to all the teams who placed top 3 because they did a fantastic job defending themselves until the last moment.
Yeah, it's going to be chaos regardless. I mean, especially we do tend to see like a lot of Horizons, like I said here, and a lot of the Horizon ults together, they can create some pretty wild situations. We saw, I mean, the Horizon ults put in a lot of work in both games so far within the final like 3, for example. But yeah, TXC, a team that has been here since week 1 of the Master Circuit, and they are very, very strong. They can be a little bit hit or miss, but you can definitely tell that when they start gelling together as a team, their plays are very, very very good. And Sarah Sutcliffe, you know, we mentioned again, a streamer and a very, very strong Valk. The Valks are really what we got to look at. You know, another one actually right here, Taylor, that we're seeing from maybe, I mean, they did end up winning this fight even despite the fact that Taylor's so low. The Valks really, like when they can lead a fight well, in these lobbies, the entire thing goes extremely well for them. And like I said, a lot of it's the verticality of having, you know, an entire lobby of controller players, but also just, you know, they lead their squad so well. And it just ends up being the Valks, you know, having that like extra high position, the fact that they can move in first potentially or move in last, whatever they want to do, the fact that they get to make the call on the ults. It's just the Valk game here in the Master Circuit.
Yeah, I would also argue that Horizon is also very valuable because you are able to see that in these buildings where the doors were broken, the ults can kind of act as a wall off because you don't, I mean, you could try to do that with Rampart, but honestly, the walls can be broken. And with Horizon's ults, it is a little bit more oppressive with the fact that once you step into it, you can't quite move and you are revealed within her ult, which is huge. So I feel like the Horizons, especially with the verticality they can get from her Qs, she's just extremely valuable in the fact that you can kind of sit up there to get half a heal off before you have to jump off. And now we do see TXC's stats here. We don't see a whole lot of damage coming out from this team, but we do see overall a lot of good teamwork with the amount of kills that they were able to get together as a team. And we do see that they were able to respawn twice, with Sarah being the clutch member here.
Yeah, that's very impressive. I think this was the team, maybe this was the team that I was mentioning earlier. I was like, oh, I don't know if they're gonna be able to get a respawn this late in the game, but yeah, two in one game and then winning is very impressive in a competitive game. And yeah, I totally agree with you. I mean, the Horizon ults within the past, you know, not just this game, but the one before too. I mean, we did see the Horizon ult for the final push in game number 1 of today, and for sure it was just in like 90% of the fights of this final ring over here. But we don't play, and TXC now both taking a game apiece. Not a huge surprise. Two of the teams that we look at, it's probably them and like Viper Squadron and Baguette, who we're all going to see literally as our top 4. That was, you know, I'm going to pretend that I planned that. I'm going to pretend that I'm smart, but that was just lucky. And we don't play, despite the fact that TXC won game 2, just still is leading so much by the elimination points. I mean, elimination points and the placement points of them being, of course, second place in this previous game. It's starting to get a little bit closer. Our second and third, you know, between TXC and Baguette, very close, but the gap starts to get a little bit larger from there. And we don't play. I mean, still holding such a nice lead.
Yeah, usually with the first game, you don't really, especially with Apex, you don't really consider the top lead to be too much, even if it does seem to be a significant lead. Just because, like, even if, which it was in the first match, a 10-point lead, that can easily be made up with in the next game, especially with the amount of people who are so talented in this roster, in this tournament. We do see that people are able to frag out, even if you are on a lower placing squad originally. So we do see a lot of that happening. Also, the RNG of Kings Canyon kind of doesn't let you be consistently at the top sometimes, just because you might land at the same POI you've been at and just get absolute crap loot. So it also depends on that, and also the rotation points. But we do see that all the teams that have Scam Legends have been able to win and place top because they've been able to get that early rotation in, which is crucial in Kings Canyon.
Yeah, having that consistency of knowing that you're just that much safer and you're not committing into a gigantic chaotic fight is very, very strong for consistency, because once you start to get your setup going, it seems like you've got a little bit of a better chance to at least like make it towards that kind of top 5 area. But of course, I just want to once again remind everybody you can go to compete.playstation.com where you can sign up for tournaments like this. This is only the 3rd out of 4 qualifiers, and we're going to have the finals, but there are plenty of the other tournaments as well. Again, compete.playstation.com. It's all free to sign up. You can play through tournaments for not just this game, but of course multiple games, tons of different games. Multiple is kind of underselling it, and you run them all through your PlayStation. It's as easy as it can possibly be. There's also, of course, a ton of information with interviews and tech videos and GG guides and stuff like that. But be sure to check that out as we're on the break, because we're going to be going to a short one before we return with more of the Apex Legends Master Circuit. Please call me out if I say something stupid. And welcome back, everybody. It's time for Game 3 of the Apex Legends Masters Circuit, wildcards qualifier number 3 for Europe. We have We Don't Play leading the pack currently, despite the fact that they were not our previous games winners, but we've got a good amount of teams that can absolutely still take the day, as we've only did 2 out of 3 games. But I think that now that we enter this kind of past halfway point, Game 3 will be where the pace really gets set as to who has to continue on aggressively, or who can kind of coast and try to play safe with placement points.
Yeah, which is great. I like it when we see other teams win matches and it's not just one team dominating across the board, which you can see first and second place only has 9 points of a difference. And with second and third, it is 3. So, you know, you do see a lot of teams actually being pretty close up in terms of the scoreboard total, but this is only game number 2. So going into game number 3, we're going to be seeing probably a more significant lead between the top 2. At least, or at least I would hope to. Who knows? Maybe we'll get a third party in that actually ends up taking top place. So that'd be really fun to see. That's what I love about these competitions, is that you don't really start to know until like game 4.
Yeah, we could for sure see that. You know, like I said, I've been watching this series for a long time, and for example, I think another team that we could very much see take a game is Viper Squadron. We've seen them do very well over the previous 2 games. They just have fallen a little bit short, maybe been in the wrong place at the wrong time, but they've won plenty of games throughout the circuit. Let's see, who else did we see? We've seen Baguette. Baguette hasn't actually won yet, right? It was TXC and We Don't Play. So Baguette, another for sure champion team that has won entire week of this, you know, entire broadcast. I believe also Viper Squadron has. Somebody's gonna have to fact check me on that, but this is one of the best things about this circuit, is that there are a lot of teams that are at a very equal skill level, and you see them leveling up with each other, you know, broadcast after broadcast, and they're starting to know each other very well, know each other's habits, and anybody can take it. We've seen, we've seen weeks where like some team will win 3 games in a row, and we've seen weeks where literally there is no repeat winner in 5 games, which is amazing to see, and it's all a mystery. It's all a mystery until the final game, realistically, with these players.
Yeah, I am glad to see that not many people have been switching off their legend choices, keeping it similar. I don't think it's a legend choice issue if you can't win fights, because gunplay is the most important thing first and foremost in Apex. But the legend abilities are just kind of supplemental. Unless you're Seer, then you are absolutely oppressive. So, I mean, there's that.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, we've basically talked about the most common picks that we're seeing. You know, 2 of them being here with the Horizon and the Valkyrie. You know, at least within these lobbies so far today, we're seeing pretty much mostly those 2 in Seer. We do see, of course, like the Bloodhound right now, which is you were talking a little bit earlier about like the plus minuses of Bloodhound versus Seer, but I mean, Seer just brings so much to the table.
Yeah, Seer has been in the meta since last season because he is just so strong. His ultimate comes back very quickly as well, and he's just able to give continuous scans on where someone is just through his passive alone, which he can then follow up with his Q, which if you remember at launch, he actually did he did like 10 damage with his Q, and that got taken out immediately because it was just absolutely oppressive, and it was not okay to get an elimination through that. So glad they changed that, and now he's slightly more balanced, but also it is basically just wall hacks. So a lot of players in the competitive have been talking about getting him reworked or removed from competitive because it feels like it's oppressive, it's not quite fair, but I mean, we'll see. We also still see those pros using him because he is in the game and free to utilize, so.
Yeah. Also, to be 100% honest, a very fun legend. I think it's very fun to be able to, like, you know, kind of like suss out your opponents no matter where they are, and just have that level of control. But obviously not so fun if you're on the other side of the view. So yeah, I totally get it. It's a great designed legend, but I mean, you can see how powerful it is, and you know, for now, we're gonna see a lot of it for sure, which is going to benefit these teams a good amount, especially, you know, making these rotations like you were talking about earlier. And right now, you know, despite the fact that you know, this map is so small, there's actually not very many teams within this ring.
Yeah, again, we do see players, we do see teams kind of picking their places that they want to land. It looks like they are staying pretty consistent in where they go and how they spread out for the loot. So it is one of those things of like, they are just going to land there regardless of whether or not they think the circle is going to close on one location. So they just have to be able to be fast enough to actually get the rotations down, which we do see a lot of teams actually existing outside of the circle. So they do need to kind of rush to get in there, because we've seen what happens if you don't. And if you haven't learned your lesson, then don't know what you're gonna do. Don't know how you expect to improve.
Just get lucky. No, I'm just kidding. No, but I mean that is what we see, though. We see a lot of these teams improving over time. There's some teams that maybe didn't do very well within the very first few weeks of this circuit, and just the experience of playing in tournament. I mean, it's such a different experience than just playing in a lobby. There's really nothing that can recreate it, so this is a great way for them to learn and become better. But we're getting a very early fight here. Rat Kings not living up to their name, taking an early fight, kind of the opposite of a rat. And it looks like we're going to see probably at least one going down on this other team.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure who they're fighting here, but they're not looking super great. Doesn't seem like they have a lot of heals here. Yeah, and they are just kind of chasing this team out. I don't know if they're going to full send here, because it doesn't look like they have too many heals. So I think they are going to opt to stay here and loot around and try to recover. Except for this Octane that decided to stick around for some reason and then get absolutely decimated. And now Dusty Penguins has been eliminated. And you see the respectful disrespect here, which is, you know what? I mean, honestly, that Octane, I don't know what they were thinking. Warranted.
Yeah, I think that other team is going to be Dusty Penguins that they've now taken down one of. But yeah, very interesting choice to stick around in there. It looks like they're not really leaving too quickly, which can be a little bit scary here. But yeah, the Rat Kings, we've seen them do kind of okay. They haven't been taking too many early fights, but starting off strong could be good for them. Like I said, literally anybody still is within the running for, at least placing even within the money here. And of course, everybody just wants to get top 10 just so they can play in the finals as well. We're going to see Viper Squadron over here at Caustic. And I really think we're going to see Viper Squadron win at least one today. I could be totally wrong on that, but they for sure have won plenty of these games within the Master Circuit.
Yeah, so we do see this team on the Overlook here just kind of, they're not really taking many shots here, just conserving ammo, and they are just trying to see where everyone is. They do still have to move in, is the thing. So I think they're opting to move and let these two teams fight, because, I mean, that's not their problem. They don't have to do that.
Yeah, that's, I think it's RGB up there on the overhang, but this is an interesting spot. We are going to see, I mean, such a great spot from, I think, oh my gosh, whichever team Toucan is on. I'm starting to remember these teams, but not fully. We are going to see on stream, finally, our first Valk ult, but they're taking a solid amount of damage here, and they're going to have to find a safe place to rotate into. It looks like they might be going northwest a little bit, yeah. And I'm not sure if anybody's hanging out over there, but I think they're relatively safe.
Yeah, I mean, they did get a Valk scan that there is a team there. So they're just going to opt to go around, because they also know that they need to recover health. But it looks like that team is very spread out, and they didn't land together. So that might be problematic. They might get caught out here, and they are not looking so great on heals anyways. So they might end up getting caught out here. But I mean, if anything, at least Valk can get out on her own. And maybe rat out and play for survival. But it's not great. They got that rotation in a little bit too late, unfortunately.
Yeah, and honestly, this, I mean, the fact that this Valk still has white armor is a little bit unfortunate, on top of the fact that they're going to be taking a lot of damage trying to get back into this ring. They definitely seem like they're a team that got caught a little bit on the back foot on these rotations, which is something that we're for sure going to see a lot even more of today. But, I think it's because I said that I think Viper Squadron is going to win at least one game today. They ended up, being in a tough spot. I've cursed it, unfortunately, but I still believe in them. I believe in them.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so Viper, they were able to recover, and they are moving together, which is great, but their shields are not looking good, and they're expending a lot of heals here. So, and it looks like once the ring closes, yep, they're going to have to just keep on going, and they don't have a Valk ult ready yet, so they're just going to have to keep on running and potentially fight all the other teams that are caught outside as well.
Yeah, I mean, hey, that could end up going very well for them. If things go well, they'll just get a lot of KP. But yeah, this is not a spot that I would expect them to do super well out of. We've got now a decent amount of teams within this ring, so people are going to start vying for positioning. I think that there's some fights for people trying to get into it, but right now we're going to see Clippers. Clippers, I believe, the very first winner of the Master Circuit. I think they won the very first game. But they have not really repeated that success, so we'll see if maybe today will be that day. Oh wow, that was an extremely aggressive ult right there. That must be a really heavy commitment for a push. No, maybe they just saw the ult get destroyed and they were like, forget it, we're leaving.
Yeah, it's more of a, like, in that instance, it's more of a warning, like, hey, we see you can't come this way, and just kind of letting them know that they own that. Ooh. And yeah, they just got absolutely decimated there, unfortunately. The R9 can be so impressive, and with the car coming out as well as one of the top SMGs to be using currently, it just one clip downs you.
Yeah, I mean, we can see it right there. And a lot of these players, especially being controller players, are really good at the tracking with, a lot of these, like, for example, these light weapons. Aside from that, they're just really strong. But Taylor now sitting behind cover, landing some great missiles. But, okay, actually he's going to find a little bit of space. It looks like the rest of the team Baguette managed to push back up and give a little bit of covering fire. And it looks like they're going to actually try to turn things around with a really aggressive push. And this is a great angle for Taylor. Going to have a shot on really... I think the entire enemy team here. One's downed. It looks like that might be all three down. Maybe somebody has a res shield. Looked like they were all downed. But yeah, Clippers going down. Great stuff. That was a really smart play to turn things around. I mean, Taylor was pretty weak at the start, but being able to turn that from, sitting behind cover and then taking such a perfect high ground spot, I'd love to see it.
Yeah, they are able to fully recover here, which is great. With 11 squads left, they are the kill leaders here. And... yeah, we do see them just trying to hold off this location so that they can be the team that holds the high ground here, but they also need to move in and actually take a building. But I think they just want to finish off this team here first.
Yeah, and it looks like they're going to. That's a pretty tough spot to fight out of. They're just probably going to take their time, play it safe, make sure they don't take more damage than they need to. But they've got time. They've got time. They're on the edge of the ring. It's not like they have to make a super far push in, at least. So they're gonna come out pretty far ahead of that. And again, I talked about kind of the top four that we see here. Baguette also there very much as well. So they're having quite a good game this time. We'll see if they can continue it through to the end. And actually, the next ring after that, which we just got to spot a little bit from that scan, seems like it could be very beneficial for them as well. They're very close to it.
Yeah. So with them moving in, and if it does end up being a capacitor circle, it's going to be a little bit tough for them to get in here. This is one of those areas where it's also very open, even though there are a lot of buildings. And again, this is where Caustic would come in really handy. A Valkyrie in close quarters won't do a whole lot. So Valk is really good for rotating early on, maybe like first 3 circles. But once you hit that and continue forward, there's not a whole lot you can use her for except for her Q, which launches the rockets and the stuns. But yeah, it's one of those things where you have to know that you are probably not going to be able to use a lot of your legend abilities once you get closer into Final Circle.
Yeah, but I mean, that's kind of how we've seen a lot of these teams being played. And wow, this is actually kind of a fight here between our top 3. We have, we don't play at the top. We've got TXC on the bottom, and we've got Baguette getting absolutely destroyed in the middle of both of them. That is such a tough spot. It looks like we might end up seeing Taylor try to survive and rat if they can even get out of there, because there is still pretty much no direction that they can safely go. That is really unfortunate. Baguette was having a great game, but I mean, to be surrounded by the other of the top 3, the other 2 of the top 3, and pretty much a lane right there where there's no true escape. And okay, this is actually kind of scary. We don't play pushing very aggressively. This is, I mean, that could actually come back to bite them because they have no damage now on TXC, and these 2 are the ones that are really fighting for top 2 here.
Yeah, we see this mess in this little corner of the circle too, and we do see someone actually still outside of the circle trying to make their way in, and this is just going to be an absolute battlefield here. We do see some switches going off there, and now going to Koopy. White has not not heal the shield. I think he was trying to get some extra damage off. He only needs 32 before he gets purple, but unfortunately, it's just too valuable to get that shield heal off first. And they are actively holding out a squad here.
Yeah, you see just some pot shots from the top of the building. Could be in a good spot for sure, but although I'm surprised, I mean, they didn't need to rotate maybe quite yet, but they're choosing to make the move right here. Oh, never mind. They're getting pushed from the back. I didn't actually see that other team. I was trying to figure out why they were running so directly out into the open, but yeah, Hakeem's is going to stand behind them and just put in a ton of work. And it looks like we're going to see the Seer here. Just trying to figure out where everybody's going to be. They do now have to make, Hakeem's has to make a pretty far push in here, and there's actually two teams in front of them, whether they see it or not. So let's see if they can safely make it back into the ring.
Yeah, I mean, also it's really good to just, like, even with 30 seconds left, you do have to move because the circle closes very quickly once you get out of round number 2. Also, the damage is very significant, so if these teams know that when they do get out and go into the circle, they're going to immediately have to fight. So being full health and taking a fight full health rather than, like, half health is still more beneficial. But we do see that Rat Kings was eliminated. We're down to 10 squads left in this tiny circle. So a lot more teams were able to actually rotate into circle a lot faster rather than like in match 2. So we do see that there are more people actually surviving to round number 4.
Yeah, and this is going to be a really interesting final circle, or final set of circles, I should say. Like you mentioned, there's not a lot of, like, true cover here. It's not like pretty much every other final circle we've had so far, there have been buildings within it. There have been, you know, some pretty, like, heavy walls. But now we're seeing this. There is this one building that's going to be within the final circle. But the question is who's going to be in it? Because currently we do see one team in it. It's the team with Dominus. Again, I'm going to have to remember which team that is. But aside from that, everybody's just kind of standing above it. Right? It's not even like a high ground building. It's like you technically have the low ground. It's kind of awkward. This for sure can be an awkward final circle.
Yeah, it's one of these circles where you have to find your way in. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to get in, and you're going to be eliminated just by pure ring closure alone, which kind of sucks. It's one of those conditions that, like, make people realize, like, hey, maybe KC isn't the best competitive map anymore. But, you know, it is what it is. But you can see that there are going to be 2 different spots that you could potentially be stuck at if you don't rotate. And there are very limited rotation points here for teams that are outside of capacitor. You can move in. Actually, not even that. There's only one spot. You can only move in through one location now. So they need to do that now or risk getting killed by the circle.
Yeah, the very large, essentially impassable walls create a very, very weird spot here. And for example, you know, we see Team Hakeem up in the north, and they need to decide a direction to go aside from just going south, and neither of those directions is safe. We do see We Don't Play taking the kill leader right now. They, as usual, are getting a ton of elimination points. They are for sure like the frag leaders over this day so far, and I mean, especially in a game 3 that might just settle them as the kind of like the frag leaders throughout the entire day. We'll see what happens in the next 2 games. But they're also going to be kind of the only team we can see right now that's actually in the circle. There's a little bit of a corner for the team that's in the, like, northwest side of a building. I'm not sure how well they're going to be able to hold that, but it just feels like We Don't Play is just kind of running through these lobbies and just being confident about where they want to be and being able to be where they want to be.
Yeah, and I want to point out that Fight Club was taken out at 9th place, and Koopy was taken out in 8th, unfortunately. So now we're down to 7 squads.
Yeah, Koopy has been right outside of that range. I think they've missed some rotations into the final circle, or maybe they're just not sure on how to do it. But here we go. We see a fight here now on 2 sides of a building. And one of these, it looks like, might be just 2 on this side of this team. Yeah, it looks like Fortsy's already down. That's Viper Squadron. And they were the ones that were holding the corner of this building, but right now they are just getting melted. I mean, they've got an okay little spot in here for now. I'm not sure if we're going to see the full push. It's scary to fully push in. But on the other side of them, we do see Taylor, who is that solo now remaining from Baguette, who survived that fight, I almost want to say, like, you know, not the third party, but just getting bullied by the other 2 top 3 teams. And Taylor's going to rat for points here for sure. Managing to survive this far is already great, and especially with the verticality of Valk, we know that Valk can be an amazing rat character.
It's one of those things where I don't know why they're pushing in right now, because I understand they need to be in circle, but, like, it's going to be very difficult for them to exist here with Seer constantly being able to scan them and know that there's only one. So hopefully they get too distracted with each other here, because we do see that everyone is finally moving into Capacitor for the final circle that it will be closing soon. So we're going to be seeing a lot of fights here, and hopefully Taylor can survive this, but I'm not quite sure. Now we do see We Don't Play coming in here and trying to get some early shots in before they have to slide down.
Yeah, just kind of getting a little bit of extra damage. They clearly wiped the squad right here, so they've got a lot of supplies going into this final fight. They're in a great spot. They are going to, of course, have to kind of move down that slope that doesn't have a whole ton of cover, but it looks like most of the other teams are kind of preoccupied anyway. The fights within just this like particular building alone have been very, very long, and Taylor's inside this building. Why is Taylor inside this building fighting? I'm very surprised.
Yeah, I mean, there may not have been many options for Taylor, but like I don't know why they're choosing the most riskiest position to be in, and they were unfortunately punished for it. Baguette is now out at 7th place. Unfortunate that he wasn't able to rat out a little bit longer, but we do see We Don't Play actively coming in here now. And now Viper Squadron does get... it's a 1v2, and I don't know if he's going to be able to win this fight.
Yeah. They had to catch up on a lot here, but yeah, I mean, Forty has been down for a really long time now. Dominus is downed, and it's just Twiki left, it's such low HP. I mean, at this point, you can't even get caught outside the ring. Like 2 ticks of that, maybe one would have been enough to get the down there. But Synthwave is going to be barely up. Although, oh my gosh, this is really close to the ring. Oh wow, they were in a lucky spot right there. They had just a little corner of that building. And they're going to manage to hopefully at least get a decent amount of heals. It looks like they're healing up pretty well in there. So we've got 2 teams in this main building. We've got that team over there, the Synthwave, that's healing up currently, and then We Don't Play, that's just every ring basically. They can just they've just been running in and not being afraid of anything. Which I mean, I love their confidence, and clearly it's paying off.
Honestly, they're in like the best position right now. They know where all the teams are. They're able to have an overview of what is exactly going on, who needs to move out first, and they are very conscious of the amount of cover that they have to play. We know that they're very good at working under a lot of pressure in these final circles, with the 6th one and the final one closing in, and they know that they can wait and just kind of abide by the rules of everyone else looking at each other. But like, look at how much ground that they're able to cover here. They're actually able to just hold down the cover. I don't know how he saw that. I don't know how he saw that person. But that's it for Hakim's out at 4th place, and Namka now does take kill leader back.
Yeah, a little bit of a battle back and forth there for just how many elims they can get, but it looks like we might see a little bit of a middle push there. And honestly, We Don't Play is just picking off like every single person that's just trying to escape from this fight. They are getting so many eliminations just for that alone. It's just like feeding them points as they're the healthiest squad. Namka getting hurt a little bit, gonna get the shield bat off, so it's not gonna be too much of a problem. Just sitting behind that door. Awkward little bit of a door conversation there between Nero and Namka. They're just kind of talking to each other like, hey, what's up? How's it going? Yeah, it's a pretty fun tournament, right? Yeah, go to compete.playstation.com. That's where I signed up. Sarah Sutcliffe also sitting in that corner right there. They've got a nice little spot in the building, but, being the ones that are inside the building, this last circle can be such a trap when you're down in, like, for example, this area or any of, like, the low ground circles, I guess, on any of the maps. Because if you're the one who holds these, like, positions first, it seems like you kind of like lose your high ground, and then everybody gets to know where you are, and despite the fact that you're holding a building, it can be really tough. There's 3 left. We Don't Play. Namka healing up again. They're just so healthy with full red shields.
Yeah, they may be healthy now, but either if they don't push, this might end up being a heal off, which is not going to be very fun of a final circle. But if we know We Don't Play, they are definitely going to push for this, because I think they want to fight for it. But it's one of those things where, like, if you don't push in because the other team is inside and in the center, you have to push and fight. And we do see that. Great. We do see that going in, and We Don't Play does actually get the full win before the circle even closes.
Yeah, that was a really nice coordination right there. Perfectly kicking down the door, timed with the Mastiff, and that was more than enough. That seemed like it did a good amount of damage. I'm surprised that that like downed. Maybe they were out of healing. Maybe there just wasn't enough supplies on the team that was inside there. And then we did see that other third team who I'm not exactly sure who that was, but they were kind of sitting down in a spot where they just weren't going to be able to safely rotate into that little circle. I mean, if you can even call rotate, they were going to find a way up, and they did get quickly down. But we don't play. I mean, just so dominant over today. We saw, again, that they stole back the kill leader. At least one of them stole back kill leader, maybe from the other person. But that they for sure are like ahead in limbs. They're ahead in placement points. This is the spot where like the lead starts to get really actually like important. And I think we're gonna have to maybe see the other teams play a little bit more aggressive to catch up. But it's hard. I mean, We Don't Play has just been so good on this map. I don't know. Maybe these are Kings Canyon fans.
Yeah, I mean, this split of the first half of this season has been on Kings Canyon for ranked. So I'm assuming that, like you said, they're playing a lot of ranked, so they probably get hours and hours of practice in. They know exactly how they want to rotate. They're used to the speed of Kings Canyon now, and we see how good they are at positioning and being able to rotate and hold the best positions. So obviously, this is a team that does know Kings Canyon really well, and at least their shot caller knows where to go, how to play these fights, and when to engage. So it's really good to see the team coordinating so well together.
Yeah, I mean, clearly very far in the lead, but they're confident. It's very clear they're confident. They never second guess, like, should we move now? Should we move to this position? Like you said, whoever their shot caller is, clearly is making confident choices, and they're all working out. So they have for sure earned their spot at what I'm going to assume is the top of the leaderboard, but we'll see that in a second. And this was, we talked about a lot during the game, but this was a very awkward final circle, right? I mentioned a little bit, but it definitely can be a trap because once you're in that low ground, the team that was inside the house, they got pushed. They got hit by so many different people because they were the first ones down there, but that also meant that they were the first ones that everybody could see because everybody on the outside of the ring could all look directly down in the middle and say, hey, look, there's a team right in there. We've all got Seer. It's not a question of whether or not there's somebody in there. It's just when we're going to figure it out. And, they ended up, it seemed like maybe out a little bit on healing and then just getting pushed by, honestly, We Don't Play, who was on the outside of the ring for the majority of the time. And that strategy seemed to work out for them. But yeah, you can see right there, just even the 112 seems like it was enough to down. So great stuff to them. And let's see how many limbs they got.
Ooh, okay. We see a lot of 7s across the board. Yeah, we do see the damage being a little bit more even across the board here as well. So it seems like We Don't Play just needed a little bit of time to warm up. And look at Romexo plays with the 21% shot accuracy and 2k damage. It seems like everyone on this team is pretty good at fighting, and it's really good to see the team kind of working together. Look at all the assists and the knocks numbers. Like, they're clearly all 1-2-3ing their enemies and working together.
Yeah, I mean, the coordination on that final push of the kick into the shot perfectly. Clearly, this is a team that is coordinated together. I mean, of course, you can coordinate that on voice, but that's one of those things that you don't want to have to spend a ton of time trying to coordinate. It has to be one of those things that you can just naturally do, because while you're sitting there waiting, anything can happen, and this team is for sure a team that has that level of kind of like in-it communication without having to talk to each other all that much, and that's why they have now won 2 out of our 3 games and taken a pretty strong lead. But yeah, the damage overall, I mean, we saw Namka, who is still, I would say overall, kind of like the frag leader of their team. We've seen them kind of be that for the past 3 games, but you are totally correct in that, like, now the rest of the team is catching up, which is like terrifying. Like, they're already doing well. Come on, they don't need to do even better than that. But yeah, now We Don't Play, TXC, and We Don't Play. So let's see the clear first place, up by 28 points.
Yeah, this is very impressive. We Don't Play with 68 points total after 3 games, and TXC at 40. And we do see Baguette closely following in 3rd place with 37. So it's very easy. Like, the top 5 can always be circled around. They can be shuffled up until the last match. So it'll be interesting to see how they do in the 4th match going into this. And yeah, We Don't Play. I mean, you can tell that this is a team that has coordinated well together, that they know exactly how they want to play it, who's going to be leading, who's going to be charging, and we do know that their conversations must be really good in their comms, like being able to call out specific things, especially when Namka does push by himself. He has to be able to communicate to his team and be like, hey, look at me, or watch this, or look at this corner, just so he can actually get those frags out. So the team coordination has been absolutely incredible to watch.
Yeah, I'm also really impressed at their ability to, not only play extremely aggressive, which clearly they can, but they also take their time when they need to, which is, a good amount of the time, honestly. But I loved in that final circle where they were, or like closing into that final circle, where they were just sitting on top of the building and picking off so many different players that were trying to escape that fight in the building. And they got so many free elimination points because they weren't like, oh, let's just go finish them all off, right? They were like, okay, this is the exact spot that we can be in. We know the exit points for that fight, and we can just watch them all and just take as many as we want. Weaken every single team, make sure that we don't have to fight in the, an even fight in the end circle. And then once they're ready, it's just like, boom, perfect aggression. They are just, we've talked so much about how good they are, but hey, there's a reason why a team has gone second, first in our 3 games so far.
Yeah, absolutely. It just goes to tell you that they know game sense, which it takes a while for you to build up game sense. And it's one of those things that can't really quite be taught. It's learned through experience. So they must have a lot of hours in the game because they're able to know, hey, we shouldn't really go into this. They're also looking at the kill feed to know when a fight is over so they can try to push in third party. So it's really good that they are taking into account all of that stuff, which is a great call in making a good team. So the fact that they are very conscious of their positioning, they're very conscious of when teams are actively in a fight and when they are hurt, and they can come in and kind of pick off the weaker people. It's really good that they are able to recognize all of that.
Yeah, and I do have to say, throughout the past 3 games, we've seen them all drop in pretty much the same place, like you were saying earlier. And We Don't Play in particular has been pretty much the only people, or, close to the only people that have dropped kind of northwest and water treatment area. And they've had, you mentioned earlier that the loot there is not super great, but they've had such free reign. They've had one player go over the pit and just solo loot that. And then, they can rotate whichever direction they want pretty safely, just because not a lot of people have been landing up there, and that might be some experience with the map as well, knowing that so many people want to land over kind of by swamps or by caustic or whatever. Just so many people on the the south and the east side that they know okay, we can go here, we can make some safe rotates, this is exactly what we want to do, and it's paid off for them really well. I'm curious to see if any of these teams have kind of realized where they're dropping and might start to target them and try to take them out early in the game to prevent them from just continuing their lead, or maybe people will just continue playing their own game. Again, we were seeing a little bit less confidence, I think, from a lot of these teams. So maybe they're just okay, we're not going to risk something super early. We're just going to try to play better, which they all could. A lot of teams doing very well, but just one of them slightly better than the rest.
There's something to be said, though, about this map drops. So in competitive, a lot of teams in Apex do choose and make it known that they are going to be landing here. And generally, you don't get contested. Once you do mark a place as your own, either you negotiate whether or not you want to share that, or if you are going to take that by yourself. So I think the teams are aware that We Don't Play chose that. So maybe actively they decided to not land near them and give them that loot. And generally, if you do change your location, either you want to tell the teams that where you land is going to be different, or it's considered kind of BM to land on a team that's doing really well, and it's kind of considered griefing. So there is that sort of thing in the community that you should kind of pay attention to. So if we do see a team land on We Don't Play, it is probably not. It's probably to keep them from continuing to play well, because either they could eliminate We Don't Play at 20th place, or they do come out on top and prevent We Don't Play from scoring. So
yeah, for sure. I'm vaguely familiar with how the teams communicate where they're dropping, but within these tournaments, we've seen some BM. We've for sure seen some BM from some players that are very specifically targeted the spots of other teams, and oftentimes it's teams that are not doing particularly well. Maybe teams that are just kind of joining for fun, but not to say that's necessarily going to happen. And it does look like, in fact, we're going to see only one team really even heading towards that west side. It looks like mainly, they're just going to be stopping right there. So we are going to see We Don't Play get really the entire west coast of Kings Canyon.
Yeah, it's going to be a pretty quiet match right now. I think that it looks a little bit more even across the board here on the map, but we do see a lot of teams just trying to figure out where this circle is going to be and where they need to go with the next scan. So, and the blue zone is actually right outside of map room, which is kind of gross. I absolutely hate that location, and it seems like no one's actually going there yet, just because the loot pool there is pretty quiet. and not great even with Blue Zone. And we do see two teams at caustic treatment, though. We have seen this consistently, so it seems like they have not changed their drop area at all.
Yeah, and there are a few spots that aren't really being dropped on too much. And wow, yeah, immediately seeing RGB go down. They've been not placing that far down, but I mean, when you're taking a risk and dropping in similar places of other people, that can happen for sure. And that's really going to hurt their chances of, again, we're not just fighting for first place here. We're fighting all the way up to 10th to earn that spot in the finals late in October. And then on top of that, there is money, of course, for I believe it's the top 4 teams. So, regardless of whether or not a team can reasonably make up the points to defeat We Don't Play at this point, like some of the further down teams, they can still absolutely make it into the money. So you don't want to get eliminated that early. Very unfortunate.
Yeah, let's see. We do see that this team is the only one, there's one other person down below. So we do see a lot of the teams aren't really fighting here right now. So it's only 12 squads left. Yeah, it's a very quiet game. I mean, going into this, you know that there's only one more game left, so you want to play really carefully, especially if you want to get on the board and if you want to qualify for finals.
Yeah, that's I tend to notice, at least, I mean, from the tournaments that I've watched, that within the kind of end of the day, very rarely things tend to get more chaotic, but as things get towards the end of the games, it seems like teams have kind of like solidified their strategy and they're trying to take less risks, and that seems to be one of those days where it now, nobody's really, aside from that early fight, of course, that first early team going down, even the team that's down in caustic maybe isn't super fighting, although, hold on. We might have a battle in here. It looks like we've got some shields down at least.
Yeah, not quite sure what's going on there. We are still at 12 squads left, though, and it looks like there are some eliminations coming out of that. Yeah, but we do see Viper Squadron at least coming into this blue zone, so hopefully they get some good loot out of this. I mean, again, this loot location is kind of not great, so I'm not quite sure what they're going to find here, and I'm not really expecting a whole lot for them.
Yeah, I mean, they did already get some pretty good armor, so it could be a whole lot worse, of course. But and actually, there was some pretty decent weapons there. You said they are 99, but we are going to see TXC really trying to push this here. It's an interesting high ground push. I wonder if they're confident that they're up against a team of 2. It's going to be Diogo and Darkspear. That's going to be team Bite Snake, which is not one that we've really seen on broadcast too much. And it looks like they're on run.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, in this location, you probably don't want to be taking these fights, especially since it's a huge rotation point. Ooh, and we do see Diogo getting absolutely beamed and taken out and eliminated there. But still 12 squads left, so we are going to see a lot of broken squads currently.
Yeah, TXC is one of those teams. I think I mentioned before that they're kind of hit or miss, and I think a lot of it is that they're not afraid to take early fights if they do see people. And I mean, they have really great like individual skill and team skill together. But of course, it doesn't matter how good of a team you are, especially on a map where things converge so strongly, like here, like Kings Canyon. That can really come back to bite you. But so, I mean, hey, they got a few more points right there, and they do kind of have to play aggressive now, right, to make up the points that We Don't Play has really jumped ahead by. Who's again just chilling, just looting. The only ones over there. They've got plenty of safe rotations all the way over. They can go through bunker, they can go north or south of bunker.
Yeah, this is also a rotation point that kind of sucks. Like, you can get funneled in through here, and it's also really difficult to fend off from someone across the way that might be sniping at you, especially with the charge rifle, which I don't think I've seen. I've seen once being used throughout this tournament, so that may have been something that this community decided to also just kind of get rid of, because a lot of people do dislike the charge rifle in competitive. So I think that is what we were seeing. We haven't seen anyone, except for maybe in the first match, using it. So I think that is something that has been taken out. But there's a lack of sniping in this in the EU region that I've noticed, and a lot of people just tend to use R301s 3 times and try to do long distance shots with that, or just fully push into a team, which I fully expect NA to look completely different.
Yeah, possibly. I mean, there for sure is like a lot less sniping in general, just of course being like an entire, PS4 controller lobby. It seems like we see a lot more aggression and people playing a lot less with like the back line. You know, we saw, for example, like the Kraber that came into play super early in the game. That actually might have been the earliest Kraber I've ever seen. Ooh, nice. Gets the break on the Valk flying up. But, you know, we didn't see too much mileage out of the Kraber, which is really unfortunate. But, you know, just the sniping tends to be a little bit less, I think, consistent, just based on the way that this is. But it does, you know, promote a lot of these close-up fights. And, I mean, people, they melt people from far away with non-snipers currently. So, I'm not sure. I mean, maybe we'll see more sniping. It's interesting to see how this meta is, you know, like the particular meta for this particular tournament, for this particular region, versus slightly different.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, EU does not need to use snipers at all because they do find themselves in all these close-range fights. Speaking of that, we do see a sniper being used right now. The longbow is finally coming into play, which, again, I'm actually very curious to see that Vantage isn't being used as well, who is the newest legend to come out, who has a free sniper as her ultimate. And it does, it's like 2 shots as a down if you hit headshots. So, again, very curious. But I think EU definitely has more of that like push and fight mentality than we've seen NA have, which is always really good to see. Makes for really good, interesting fights, especially in tournaments. So, except for I say that and it's very quiet this match.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's too just like it's based on where the circle is, right? Like I think a lot of people have had a little bit slightly safer rotations into the circle throughout this game. Of course, like you mentioned, you know, this can be a little bit of a choke point. It looks like we're probably going to have to see somebody commit to this fight here. I think the team, as Rat Kings caught, no, sorry, Rat Kings is the one kind of gatekeeping this choke point. But the team that they're fighting can't really go back and get around it with too much ease, so they might go for the full push.
Yeah, I don't know. Rat Kings is actually in the worst position here because they are actively having to back the entirety of this canyon area, and they have to move, but I don't think they're going to be able to fully move out of here, and we do see Raph go down, so now it is going to be a 2v3 if Rat decides to fight, but TXC just holding this ground. I mean, they know that they also have to move very carefully. They're going to try to commit to this KP and rotate in as soon as possible.
Yeah, that's a tough team to try to gatekeep for sure. TXC, who's now already got quite a good amount of elims, just fighting pretty much more than anybody else. You know, it's been like you said, a quiet game. TXC has fought like 2 or 3 different teams so far. Like again, they might be trying to make up some you know, elimination points just for the end here to try to catch up, or maybe they're just that type of team. But we see a lot of teams already within the ring, and that's something that we haven't seen as much throughout the other games. That we already see, like, I mean, just looking on the map right here alone, there's like 3 different teams within this encampment, and then 3 on the bottom, kind of closer to Caustic. So that is just a lot of people that are already just sitting in buildings. So I'm curious as to who's going to be the ones to push.
Yeah, I mean, we do see a fight happening here outside of labs, but it does look like it's not really going anywhere. Yeah, they're just trying to push out here, but I don't know if they want to leave the buildings completely. So there is just a lot of trying to maintain their ground here so that they can be safe for the next circle. They do have a scan and beacon here, so they're able to tell when the next circle is going to be. And yeah, we do see this team actively fighting as well, getting free shots here.
Ooh, yeah, that looked like that was going to be a pretty decent fight. Back to Kubi Kubi, though, who actually did leave that building. And oh my gosh, what is even going on here? Clippers is melting here. They're holding this door just barely, trying to get some heals off. It doesn't look like they're getting pushed, but they are just not in a good spot, despite the fact that they're the ones pushing. Oh, there you go. Goodbye, yeah. Bloodhound.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot they can do here. It is a 2v2, I believe, and now it is a 1v2, and it's just not going to work out well for them. Clippers was taken out. Also, God Trio was also eliminated at 11th place as well, so a lot of fights happening all around the spot.
Yeah, that was, I mean, that was an inevitable fight right there. But yeah, that push just did not go the way that they wanted to. Gotta love seeing the Bloodhound fly away. That was super funny. But we now are down to less teams kind of holding in this spot, although more teams are starting to rotate into it. Just once again, we don't play, you know, kind of just coming in from their angle, playing safe in the corner. But Rat Kings here, yeah, the player that went down, Raph, was just not able to be picked back up when they were fighting TXC in that choke point earlier. And so they're just going to try to play it safe here, I'm assuming. They do, of course, have the Pathfinder and the Gibby, so they can play, you know, kind of defensive here and just kind of try to not die, which is maybe their best bet. You can already see them on top of, like, the ramparts there.
and looks like Baguette is opting to stay on cage for a little bit longer. They do have a minute and a half, which, I mean, considering the rotation points, it's not great. They are going to have to find a position to kind of live in, but there are so many teams already existing in all these location points that they are rotating in. It's just going to be a constant fight for land. So yeah, good luck to them moving in. We do see that Sol and Diaz's teams are kind of overlapping on top of each other outside of labs.
Yeah, Koopa another team that's kind of gone out around this time every other single game. They've not been playing bad by any means, but they just haven't been able to really continue. And now it looks like they're getting pushed by We Don't Play. Look at this, the beautiful push from above. I mean, the Thermite, the Horizon ult, just they almost didn't even need to use any guns within that fight, and they're gonna get some nice. They're gonna pick up some gold armor there. Rom is going to at least, but it looks like they're getting third party from the back. Mr. Namka already getting really close to melting. Probably really good that it was Bangalore managed to get that little speed in the smoke to escape and not actually get downed. And it looks like it might be TXC behind, no, Baguette behind them, who is pushing them. Yeah.
Yeah, this is one of those situations where you pushed and left your circle position, and now you're getting punished for it. And We Don't Play may be able to get out of this if they do decide to take the ring damage, but it's not really, I mean, they're not really getting out of the location as far as they can, and they know that they gave up that position, so a lot of teams are already going to be posted up where they just left and cleared. So it's one of those things where, like, yes, you got some KP, but was it worth it? Because now you're going to be struggling to find yourself into the next circle, and the round closes now. So it's one of those things where you have to sacrifice, and, I mean, this is a strong team, so they probably can fight for dominance in a building, but if it was any other team, it would be a huge struggle.
Yeah. I feel like I've seen a few different things that have been like, oh, like now you have to reposition from We Don't Play in particular, and then they just do anyway, and it's like, oh, well, I guess they're just that good at individual play. But Viper Squadron holding a really nice spot here, standing above TXC, and they are going to at least get a pretty solid chunk here. Of course, Dom is already having that gold armor, is going to be building it up with any damage, but whoa, okay, kind of aggressive, just trying to make sure that nobody's still down there below the bridge. Taking a solid amount of damage from this ring just to make sure. Are you really going to go down there? You're taking a ton of damage. Hold on, can you make it back?
Yeah, they have gold armor, so they should be okay to heal after, but yeah, I think he just got that syringe off a little bit too late there. We do see two teams fighting outside of this entry point here. It's Baguette and another team just fighting it out here. 7 squads left. Circle's getting smaller and smaller. I want to assume this is We Don't Play because they just pulled out a Bangalore smoke, and it looks like they are using that to try and rotate out. So it seems like they are taking 2 different rotation points, so it looks like they are going to be free. But it is one of those things where, again, these teams are existing, and you are going to get shot at trying to move into any location here.
Yeah, and this is actually starting to be, I think, one of the scariest pushes that We Don't Play might make. I mean, they do have this really nice high ground, so they can't really easily be third-partied, but there is actually secretly a team behind them that was just rotating out from kind of a little bit of a hiding spot. I think they were starting to heal, and that was Baguette, which is, of course, another strong team. So they do have a little bit of a weakness here on their Ashe, but they've got an okay spot to kind of sandwich We Don't Play here, who's honestly just almost not caring. There's Amp going down though, actually, so that's pretty big, you know, considering that was kind of the top fighter of that team. Getting picked back up, but they are really low. Mr. Poffin going down. Namka just, I'm trying to get off a little bit of a heal. Looks like they're in a decently safe place, but Rom is gonna just run away, just saying, I don't even want to be in that position. And the ring is closing very soon, so that's very understandable. It looks like, oh, this is a really awkward spot, both on different sides of kind of this damn wall here, and that is, I mean, somebody's eventually going to be a position. Oh, there's a third team. Oh no.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of those situations where, like, you're gonna have to use every nook and cranny that you have on the map to try and get cover, which is what we see Synthwave doing here, trying to hold the high ground up on this corner, because they're assuming that it's going to start pulling towards the cliff side that they are fighting on. So there are two different locations that could be on the opposite side of this wall here, and we do see Baguette trying to get ahead, trying to get any sort of high ground up on that hill ahead, but they are getting actively shot at by, like, every single team in the lobby currently. So it's going to be one of those things where, I mean, you're just not going to have a lot of places to exist without overlapping overlapping into another team, so you're going to have to fight for survival here, which is exactly what we see Baguette doing, cracking this enemy team, but they're not able to fully secure, so they are going to hide. And actually, We Don't Play was eliminated in 5th place. They were just not able to find a position to exist in.
Yeah, they're the lowest placement there, and of course they were fighting as a duo at that point, and then they just got pushed so heavily in that little corner. That was a really tough spot to be in. Synthwave actually managing to get out of that entire situation pretty unscathed, because we did see, of course, the Valcolt over them, and then We Don't Play just kind of ran past them, so they're in a pretty decent spot, but there's not a lot of cover up there, except for just the fact of it being high ground alone. So it looks like they're kind of being targeted by Baguette. Baguette has a sense that they're there, and yeah, look at that. There's no real clear space to hide. There is for Baguette, so they're going to be able to re-heal, but yeah, the Synthwave in trouble. And we're down to the final 4 squads and not even quite at the final circle yet.
Yeah, this is going to be rough for them because they can't quite move in yet until the other teams start to look at each other and fight. Because this started pulling towards the top of the mountain here that was separating all the teams. So now they are going to have to converge, and it's just whoever gets there first is going to have to fight and probably fight the rest of the other 3 teams that are here. And we do see Live Legends team just crouched down here, just hiding as a duo.
Are you sure they're not the Rat Kings? Maybe they should take that name, because that's a pretty good spot. But we are going to see at least now this first fight, and it looks like Baguette is actually kind of melting here. Synthwave staying pretty healthy, just getting that one heal off on the Seer. But hold on, Taylor coming over the pipes right here. It can be a little bit of a weird angle, but I mean, there's still just that nice little bit of cover. They might actually rotate around the side behind. Oh yeah, and that rat spot is no longer good. But Synthwave Nation is for sure bleeding. Soul's down. Jonas is taking a lot of damage. They are now down here, just trying to at least finish off one team, and they are going to get that, but I don't think they're going to be able to easily recover.
That actually was Rat Kings. That was
that actually
out.
was?
Yeah,
oh
it
my
actually
God.
was.
Oh, no way. That's awesome. That's awesome. I love them. They're my favorite team right now. They actually are living up to their name. That's respectable, you know? Live for the rat. But here we go. We're at the top 3 teams now. And we have... Oh, this is an interesting spot. I mean, speaking of rats, yeah.
Yeah, so that's one of the things. They sacrificed placement to try and get that KP, which may end up working out in their favor, but I mean, they were eliminated at 3rd place. So we'll see who comes out on the winner here. I mean, we do see Viper Squadron doing really well. A team that I really wanted to see win a match because they are a pretty strong team working together. And they are going up against Baguette, who has survived this long as well. So, I mean, I don't know. I want both of these teams to win, but unfortunately, it's a battle royale and only the best can win. So, I guess we're just going to have to see who's going to come out on top.
And this is actually one of the first times that we've had a final fight that's actually just 2 relatively healthy teams against each other without one being like already on the back foot being pushed or like a, you know, within a third party. Like this is actually just a straight up 3v3. A lot of that's because We Don't Play has found the perfect positions and they're no longer in this game. So this is going to be, I mean, this is a little bit of a tough spot. They've got the cover of the car down there, but I mean, high ground and the majority of the circle very much belongs to Baguette. So Viper Squadron, ooh, landing some nice wingman shots right there, but they need to find something big here. They need it down, and the circle is about to come in, and they're already taking a lot of damage. Dominance at about 25% HP. Fortsy's going to be able to get one more heal as this is coming out, but wait, are they going to get pushed?
Yeah, I was going to say, I think that Baguette is in the better ground here. They are able to get a crack, and they might actually push off of this, especially with Taylor getting the extra angle there. I mean, they're just absolutely sandwiching them here. Yeah, Viper doing everything they can to try and master it, but unfortunately, Baguette is getting the absolute R301 beam, and Baguette is the champ for the 4th game.
Very nice. That was actually kind of starting to get close. You know, one more Mastiff shot and it could have come down to 1v1, but it just didn't end up happening. That mobility around that little truck right there was very good. And, I mean, this was a huge game. This was an absolutely huge game to win, right? This was our 3rd and 4th place here with Baguette ESL and, or I'm sorry, they're Baguette now. AL, I think is their name. That was their old name, Baguette ESL. But between Baguette and Viper Squadron, both of them placing very well. But the fact that they are going to be able to get so many elimination points and then place a decent amount of spots, you know, 4 spots or 3 spots above We Don't Play, who's the, you know, the current leader, or, you know, we'll see if they're still the current leader. I'd assume they might be. That was big, right? This is the exact spot they need to at least secure themselves in a 2nd place, which is, as I said, still important. You're still going to get more money for being within that 2nd place. And so I'm glad to see that we're still kind of we're still very competitive within the top 4 or 5 teams.
Yeah, I mean, we did see that from second place to about fourth and fifth. The scores were pretty close and it was anyone's game, and it is up for shuffle, especially with us going into the last game. So it's going to be interesting to see how that has been shifted around now after this game. But I do want to say that We Don't Play did have a 20-point lead, so I think they'll be pretty safe for now, but it will be very close going into the last and final game. And I think this is where we might see some people trying to target them a little bit more as soon as they can recognize them in the game. So, yeah, I mean, it's a great opportunity for everyone to try and vie for first place, which I'm honestly really glad to see that there isn't a huge lead yet. But we haven't seen the scoreboard, so I guess we can fully determine then.
Yeah, I think a big question is I'm not really sure how many eliminations We Don't Play got, right? They clearly like wiped this team, but that was the only team that I think we saw them fight fully on broadcast. So I'm not sure how many other elims they got. And we saw a lot of elims from the top two teams, you know, Baguette here and then, of course, Viper Squadron. So we'll see. I mean, I agree with you. It's probably, like, pretty impossible to have overtaken first, but to be able to set up to, like, you know, if We Don't Play has just a terrible game next game, and you have, like, a pop-off game to potentially be able to steal first, setting up a game 5 for that where the possibility is there is going to be really big. Or, like I said, just at least fighting for second. Extra money, you know, free money. PlayStation.com, sign up.
Yeah, I will say that We Don't Play has, at least in just today of watching, they have done a really good job of being able to learn from their mistakes and try to reposition better. And seeing Baguette, they did actually learn from their mistakes as well. Looks like everyone's shot accuracy was like 20% and higher, which is great. Lots of good damage across the way. It looks like they were working together really well as a team. We see Taylor with the 6 kills, but and also Obelix with 6. So all the team members were doing their work and doing their part in helping eliminate, which is great. And it's really good to see. You could see that their teamwork was very on point this match.
Yeah, I also got to point out, it's really cool to see the Ash. I was a little bit surprised. I noticed the, you know, you've been pinged by Ash, or whatever the actual wording is. I know it's not exactly that, but I was like, wait, who's playing Ash? And I was like, oh, Baguette's playing Ash. That's definitely one of my favorite legends, and it's cool to see it pop up. Which it does, you know, not super uncommonly within the Master Circuit at least. So it's cool to see an Ash taking a game. Of course, the Horizon Valk combo for every single team so far has been pretty irreplaceable, I'd say.
Yeah, I mean, it gives you a lot of individual survivability, same with Ash, which is why I think they did so well. Not only can they work together as a team, but they're also able to play for their own individual survival, which helps a lot, especially going into the final circle. And yeah, look at this. I mean, I'm glad we saw We Don't Play win twice because they're a really good team, but it's also good to see other teams showing off their viability as top players.
Yeah, EU has always been very competitive, and let's see how things have landed. And only a 13-point lead now. Baguette will be sitting in second place. We Don't Play did not get all that many elims, I think. I can't remember the exact number that it was before, but they didn't jump all that many points for, you know, getting their 5th place placement points and then whatever elims they got. So this is, you know, like I said, okay, this is a pretty heavy jump, though, now from second down to third. So third, fourth, fifth, they're all, like, kind of fighting for a spot, or even really just third and fourth, tied, Viper Squadron and TXC. But Baguette, you know, if We Don't Play gets eliminated a little bit early, or maybe doesn't get a whole lot of elims, doesn't run into a lot of teams, and Baguette continues to play like they did last game, they could potentially overtake that first place spot. Obviously not going to be easy by any stretch of the imagination, but like I said, it's all about just the potential, because, you know, you look down at Viper Squadron, TXC, there's pretty much no way that they're going to be able to overtake We Don't Play at this point. They can still, of course, get second, they can get third, they can get fourth, they can get in that money, but Baguette versus We Don't Play is kind of our final challenge here.
Yeah, I mean, again, that's if We Don't Play. Even if We Don't Play doesn't get to play, really, and they get eliminated at 20th place, it would still be pretty difficult for Viper Squadron. They would have to have a near flawless game, which could happen, but, you know, it's one of those things where it's probably most likely that Baguette will be vying for the top spot, at least a tie or something. So we'll see. Again, it just depends on how everyone decides to land. It depends on where the circle pulls. So there are a lot of different factors that we'll have to keep an eye on for the final game.
Yeah, we've got one more game left, but before we go into that, we're going to go into a break. But before we go into the break, I just want to remind everybody that all of these teams here signed up on compete.playstation.com, and you can as well. This isn't some sort of tournament where it's just like, oh, these just these specific pros that have fought their way through leagues. This is anybody. You could be the next champion. You could be up there on that win list. Go to compete.playstation.com. There's tons of tournaments for tons of different games, not just Apex Legends, but pretty much every genre that you could think of. There's also tons of guides. We've got the GG guides specifically for Apex Legends that Rain Day has done such a great job on, and Girl as well. There are lots of videos that you can check of the matches, just everything that you could want basically for competition. And of course, you can sign up and play through your PlayStation. You don't need to go to any external sites. These tournaments are all run extremely cleanly, something that I wish I had back in the day. But compete.playstation.com, check it out as we're going to this next break, because we are going to take just a few minutes as these players set up, and we've only got one game left to see who your champion will be for day number 3 of the Wild Cards tournament of the Apex Master Circuit.
Right here. Go here.
Enemy spotted bar.
Bogey in sight.
Welcome back. There's only one game left here in Europe for the Apex Legends Master Circuit Wildcards Qualifier number 3. We have We Don't Play leading the pack, but at this point, Baguette is pretty close behind them. Of course, once again, I am Wonder Chef, joined by Parallax Stella, and it's been a good day so far. You having fun? I know this is your first time here on this particular series. I hope you're enjoying yourself.
Yeah, it's been really great to see these teams play, especially since, anyone can really enter this competition, which is great. So we get to see how other players who may not have an opportunity to play in tournaments, especially on console-specific tournaments, like it's been really good to see, because I think that we need more console-specific tournaments. So it's been really good to see this, especially on the PS4, highlighting these players that we may not necessarily see.
Yeah, I love tournaments like this for really any game. You get to see some things that you didn't expect, and sometimes, you're so used to seeing just this like specific level and the specific meta of professional play that sometimes people will bring things out that you'll be like, hold on a minute, like, yo, that's super legit. Like, that is actually like really genius. And I just even like whether it be team comps or just specific ideas or just the ways that teams play, like it's just so good to see like different perspectives. Sometimes it's really cool. Sometimes you're like, maybe that wasn't the best choice. But regardless, it's just cool to see kind of a different perspective and different teams that you're not used to seeing. And honestly, the teams today have been putting on a great show. Nobody's like totally, or very few teams are totally out of it right now. The top 5 in particular have been just absolutely killing it in a pretty even fashion. Again, though, We Don't Play 13-point lead, I believe, over Baguette, and Baguette needs to have a really good game to catch up there. And our 3rd and 4th place are actually tied, so there's a lot that goes into this very final, the game of the day, which is what you like to see. You don't want to see it like, oh yeah, somebody already basically won. You want to see it like be like, okay, this is important.
Yeah, it's great. I am very curious to see how people are going to play in Game 5. We did see fights slowing down a lot in Game 4, and people only having to take fights because they really needed to fight for survival to be in a building or in a location for the next circle. So I'm assuming we're going to see the same sort of thing for Game 5, but it'll be interesting. We're probably going to see a lot of teams taking a little bit more fights so they can try to get extra KP and get into the top 10.
Yeah, again, of course, the top 10 qualifies for the finals at the end of October. There's one qualifier before that, but if you get top 10 right now, not necessarily even just top 10, right? Because the spots go down if somebody else is already qualified above you. And a lot of these teams, they're real regulars here, and a lot of them are already qualified. So these teams, pretty much no matter how low they are in this current standings, they have a chance to, at the very minimum, qualify for the finals. But we get to see the team comps. It's been pretty regular here in EU. We did see the Ashe come out on top in the last game, which was a little bit different than what we've been seeing, but it's been a lot of Seer, it's been a lot of Horizon, and it's been a lot of Valkyrie. I would love to see a few other unique things. We saw a few Lobas earlier in the day, and you were mentioning how Loba can be very strong on this map, and I personally love Loba, so I'd like to see a little bit more of that. But just the teams that have chosen Loba have just been in some unfortunate spots, I think, that early on in the game. So we'll see what the overall picks are.
Yeah, we've seen some Gibraltar players as well, but like not as many as I would expect. We do see some Pathfinders, but again, we haven't seen a lot of fights where Pathfinder's individuality really shines through on movement and such. But actually, speaking of movement, I was actually very impressed that PS4 players were able to dash around it quite as fast as PC players. Not quite able to use the same movement tech, but I was very impressed, which I had to ask one of the producers if keyboard and mouse was allowed on PS4 tournaments, which it is not. So yeah, very impressed with the amount of movement that they are able to get, which is really cool. So again, which is really awesome to see PlayStation tournaments like this so that people can get practice and, you know, people can showcase their skills.
Yeah, it's actually really cool. You know, I was originally a PlayStation player myself for about 1,000 hours, and then you know, I've also played on PC as well. But there are so many things that you can do on controller. A big thing is that a lot of good players, I think, use like bumper jumper for controls, and that gives you the freedom to do a lot of the movement tech that we tend to see from pro players. And these players, I mean, we get to see a good amount of it in here, but yeah, controller can do quite a lot, which is great to see. I mean, Apex, of course, some of the best, I would say, controller integration of any FPS that I've ever seen in my entire life. It's very, very strong, of course, and these players are having no issues, you know, showing off how good you can be at it. But we can see where everybody's starting to drop. We actually see We Don't Play going even further north, where they're not by runoff. They're going to be just completely up by crash site, which is a slightly different drop than they have before. But we also do see, we actually see, that might be interesting right there. You know, we see Baguette with Taylor right there, dropping a little bit closer to runoff to where We Don't Play has been. So I wonder if maybe that was a targeted drop slightly.
Yeah, they may have seen that a team was going there and they decided to, I mean, We Don't Play decided to switch off and go crash site because that's the very last drop, and they realized that they're the only team in the dropship. So that might have been the play there, which honestly probably works out for them pretty well. The loot in crash site is really good. So, and they also have beacons, so they're about to get scans. So they probably chose that location because it's very good. Now we do see a fight already happening in Capacitor, of course, which is a pretty hot zone for fighting, especially early on.
Yeah, it looks like we got Koopy, who's been pretty, I mean, playing well, but just not quite placing very well. I've said that pretty much every game at this point, but it looks like they're going up against TXC here, who is holding a pretty decent spot. We're actually already getting a scout. I feel like the scout was in PAX for a while, so I actually haven't really seen anybody pick up a scout today so far.
Yeah, the scout is pretty good. It's very oppressive. You can still put the double tap on it, and the DPS on it is pretty good. So it's a pretty nice mid-range, mid to long-range option if you don't want to be doing sniping. So a lot of players have been using it because it's also faster rate than snipers. So, and it also takes light ammo, so you can carry more. But it looks like Koopy not doing so well. Now it's going to be a 2v3 versus whatever team that they're fighting here, and it's very easy to get third-partied. And now it's going to be a 1v3. And yeah, my life is not looking too great. I mean, they are getting the Phoenix kit off, but I don't think that's going to be enough to fight against a full team.
Yeah, and this is TXC, so these early elimination points are going to be really important to them. Of course, they were at the start of this match currently tied with Viper Squadron, fighting for that third, fourth place, maybe potentially getting second, but probably realistically not. So they want to, of course, try to get as many elimination points within this final game as they can. They want to get in that third spot. They're currently, though, in a pretty decent spot in the ring, so I don't know how... Oh, wait, okay, we're actually going to see a Valk rotation over the wall. Yeah,
they're chasing the solo player because they want that KP. So we do see TXC actually being incredibly aggressive here.
Oh, this is sad!
Oh, they weren't able to pull out their weapons in time, but I think they are going to get this elimination here. They just need to connect, like, one more shot.
Oh, no way. Are they actually going to get away? Oh, that is actually unbelievable. They got away. That was hilarious. God. They dropped in a circle around them and all punched, and they were like, no, we didn't quite get it. I actually cannot believe that they got away. They used an entire Valk ult to not quite get that elimination. That is a hilarious moment. Definitely the funniest moment today for me.
Yeah, that's unfortunate because, like, when they land, they can't quite pull out their weapons immediately. So, unfortunate for them. But, I mean, I don't think that the last member of their team is going to be alive for much longer. So I think they'll just stay here and craft some more shields and heals. And we do see another fight here happening outside of caustic treatment.
Yeah, this is looking already kind of rough for this team over here. It looks like, I believe that is Viper Squadron with 4C that is pushing this other team. And Twiggy actually extremely, melted extremely fast. But it looked like maybe they were working on a 3v2. I'm not sure how many people are up on this other team. And yeah, that was the end of that squad for sure. They're going to pick up Twiggy. And now we've seen, both of the teams that were tied for third and fourth, both taking out nearly the entire squad. It's going to be such a heartbreaker if Baguette in particular not taking out, actually, I'm assuming it was this Valk, is going to be like the point difference between third and fourth. That would be funny, but not for Baguette.
Yeah, and that was actually RGB that was eliminated at 11th place with 10 teams left now. So we do see Kubi just kind of surviving with their rat there. And we see another Valk ult coming out of swamps to rotate into this area right before Cage, which I hope they don't stay there, because Synthwave, they were really primed with their location last time. So I would love to see them try to take more fights and get more KP for placement.
Yeah, this is actually another team that I feel like has been doing really well today, but they're like just outside that top four. I think they were our fifth at a point, and they might still be our fifth, but I feel like if they had one good pop-off game, they could for sure also potentially get into a nice placement. But hey, you know what? You were talking about the charge rifle. It looks like somebody actually did pick up the charge rifle, and now generally in competitive, you just use charge rifle to kind of build shields. Is that correct, or?
You can, but honestly on Kings Canyon it is very important to be using, just because you have so much area that you can see at once, and there's no drop off with the charge rifle, so there's no penalized shots for shooting someone from like halfway across the map, because there's no drop at all. So like this, you can get easy kills and you're able to finish your kills and secure the KP, like you see right now happening with Wrath. So charge rifle's pretty good for building shields, but honestly any sniper is. Charge rifle just lets you connect more shots and is more forgiving.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I love too that the team that was kind of hiding up there and like sneaking the kills was again Rat Kings. I'm a big Rat Kings fan. They're living up to their name still. But we're going to see a fight right here. This is going to be Sutcliffe, so that's going to be TXC fighting another team that I'm not as familiar with. I don't think I've seen too much of this player so far, but they're in a tough spot right now, trying to heal behind the tree. They're not super unhealthy, but oh
no.
I don't know what that was, but you know what? Going for a swim. That's how it be sometimes. Sometimes you're like, you know what? It's been a good day. Let's relax in the ocean.
Yeah, I think that may have been a rotation gone wrong there, unfortunately. But we do see this fight kind of taking a little bit too long, and I think they might end up getting third party here, because this Labs is also a pretty central hub for a lot of fights. Deja Vu not doing too well here, 2v3, trying to get some heals off. Oh, it's a 2v2. Yeah, I don't know how well they're going to survive this one, though.
Yeah. This is yeah, they are very quickly getting down. Nero taking a little bit of damage, but in the end, it didn't even matter. And TXC taking, another big fight. TXC and Viper Squadron really like fighting again for that third, fourth place. They're both playing very aggressive. It's pretty interesting. We were seeing a much slower game in game 4, but in game 5, I feel like a lot of people have picked a lot of fights. It is their last chance, right? It's kind of like do or die, quite literally here. So I kind of like to see it, but the teams that have been on top have been continuing to do extremely well. We are going to see the Valk ult, but are they going to use it just to rotate, or they're going to turn around and fight this team? Looks like they're just leaving.
Yeah, the smart thing to do with 9 squads left is to rotate, especially since they do have a lot of KP. They are the current kill leaders, so they probably do want to get rotations in, because then that means that they can save more time and get kills. And it looks like Raymond was actually pretty low health here, so really good recovery by them, and now they're able to secure position for the next circle.
Yeah, and one team that we haven't talked about, of course, kind of sneaking in through the top up there is We Don't Play, who hasn't, I haven't seen them get too many eliminations this game, but it's not out of the, realm of possibility that they did off stream. I think we see like a one-off right there. We see, wait, is there a team that has one player in the top, like the Northwest, and one player in the Far East? With both the green players, right? Are they just totally split up? That's really weird. I don't know exactly what's going on there, but Regardless, we are going to see We Don't Play start to move in, and they're getting into that spot where the fights might begin. But we also see just kind of a lot of the strong teams there, right? Viper Squadron's fighting currently in that whole area, and seeing right side of that area, we see the entirety of TXC, and then We Don't Play behind them. So this is where all the top squads are kind of starting to converge. Of course, some of them could rotate out, but this could be when we start to see somebody lose their chance.
Yeah, we see these wingman shots coming up, but not quite able to really connect here. And now, of course, he's going to have to back off. Trying to recover here. Viper Squadron pushing a fight, but they are also getting shot at from above, so they're going to have to play this really carefully. They need to finish the squad that's in front of them, which is actually TXC. So TXC, they are down a member, and I don't think they're going to be able to get the res off with this Seer ult down, because they are able to see that and cancel it.
Yeah, this is looking rough. I mean, Sarah is still super healthy, so we might just see the rat play from here on out. We might just see the run. Yeah, it looks like we're starting to see that. But not much else you can do. Viper Squadron get a nice little elimination right there. They're holding a pretty good spot, but we are starting to see We Don't Play get very, very close to them, I think. They're really close to another team. Honestly, just a lot of strong teams are right in this spot. This is a pretty interesting final circle for this one. It's pretty far from the other final circles that we've seen, being so centered here, kind of like near swamps, and then kind of moving over to Hydro.
Yeah, unfortunately, TXC was eliminated there. Sarah did go down, and they did go down in 8th place. Unfortunately, they only get 1 extra placement point, but they did have some KP, but I don't think it's going to be enough to really put them up too much higher on the board here.
Yeah, and I mean, the fact that Viper Squadron's still up seems like that might push them into the 3rd place. Depends on how they do throughout the rest of this game. But Synthwave, we were talking about how they've been doing pretty well, and they're still one of these 7 squads remaining. They've got a really nice spot kind of above this bridge. I don't know if they're going to close anything out, but Viper Squadron is going to close out Rat Kings. No, my favorite team. No, I'm just kidding. They were, of course, in a little bit of a rat spot right here, just kind of closing in this cave. But now they're gone. Only 6 teams left.
Yeah, Synthwave is in a really good prime spot here, able to overlook a lot of swamps and the 2 locations that you can really come up here. So they are doing great. They're able to do some recon. This Valk ult is coming out kind of late, and that may end up giving them a target to shoot at. So Synthwave is holding this top ground pretty well. They also have a care package on the other side, and they're just making sure that they can catch any stragglers out that are trying to move into the circle.
It seems like Synthwave's positioning has been pretty strong throughout the entire day. They haven't been able to really fully, I guess, just earn that much from it. But they've been in good spots. They just end up getting pushed, I think, a decent amount. And right now, they've got this huge high ground. They're just taking pot shots down at everybody down who hasn't been able to rotate all the way up to Hydro. And, I mean, this is at the very minimum. Okay, yeah, actually, I was going to say building them red shield, which literally happened right there. But I feel like there's a good chance that they're going to be able to get an elim, at least on that one player down there whose shield's probably almost broken.
I mean, I hope they do, because they do need that loot. You can see that Diaz is running out of light ammo. He only has 59 extra shots left, and they need to get this elimination, or they're not going to be able to replenish for the final fight. And they still need to get into position, and they're very open.
Oh yeah, they are spending a lot to try to close that out right there. Especially, you were talking about just how much ammo's left. There's only 28 plus 19, so it's like 30 or 47 shots left, which is not that much with an R301, so that could be a pretty scary spot. And then on the other side, they had the cars, their secondary, so I'm not sure exactly which ammo if they actually had any heavy ammo hanging out in their pack, but they weren't using it. I would have to expect that. Oh, well, I guess they actually have plenty. I'm surprised they didn't use the car to try to close out the play. But they land on top of a different team. I'm not sure which team this is, but that is such good positioning, and they are going in immediately. It looks like they're really going to commit to this. Yeah, that is going to be Seer going down, and they can at least close that out, but there's not really anywhere left to run. I'm not sure where the last person on this is. Tom Amon gets eliminated. I don't think that was the team that they were fighting, though. I think that just happened somewhere else.
Yeah, we do see a team fighting. We do see 2 teams fighting at map room here, which is not safe, and they do need to move in. So this is going to be one of those fights for survival, so they can actually leave, because they do need to move up quite a bit and to that first building.
Yeah, Baguette taking so much fire right now. They are not in a good spot. Not only do they have to heal here, but actually it's going to be Baguette and Viper Squadron fighting in kind of a similar area, and that's huge. That's our, potentially our second and third place teams here. And Baguette really needs to get this, this whole squad wipe, or at least be able to survive to have a chance at placing first, which is not going to be easy at all, considering how things are playing out. But that's not going to be easier said than done, considering the fact that they have to start running like now, like 10 seconds to the ring. You guys start running now.
Yeah, and Viper Squadron looks really strong this match. They're able to just constantly wipe in their fights, so they're feeling really confident. They're feeling really good. So the fact that they are running into these fights full sending means that they do feel pretty confident about the way that they've been playing. So they are going to be taking these full fights, and yeah, hopefully they can get some limbs out of this.
Oh, I actually have to point this out. It looks to me like We Don't Play only has one single player left. It's only Ron left, so they are probably not going to be getting that many points from this game. They are placing in the top 4, so that's already a good amount of placement points, but they're probably not going to get a bunch of frags going into the end of this, or probably get a win, of course. So if Baguette really pops off right here, this could be their moment to take things. Viper Squadron as well has, the chance to at least push up very strongly. This is a pretty scary final circle for kind of everybody.
Yeah, I think Baguette would have to really get in as many kills as they can right now to really secure that first spot. But looks like that kill from Synthwave was actually robbed by another team. And that is We Don't Play being fully eliminated now, though, at 4th place.
Oh, yeah. Actually, did Baguette get eliminated when I wasn't paying attention? I don't see their team here on the map. It looks like that is going to be Hakim, and that is going to be Viper Squadron, and then not sure which team is above them. The team with Soul on it. That's, wait, that's them? No, that's Synthwave. So yeah, actually Baguette got eliminated as well. So this might be a lock for We Don't Play, just surviving that long, just ratting out to that final moment. But we do have these 3 teams left. Viper Squadron probably has the most to gain out of doing well in this final circle. These other teams aren't quite there, but, I'm not sure where the points land. Synthwave might be able to push their way into the money if they place really well right here. They've had a great game so far.
Yeah, they do have Ash's ultimate as well, and the Horizon Q to help them get back up, so they can do that. But yeah, Baguette just didn't have a place to land. Every team was already existing in all the buildings, so unfortunately they just didn't know where to go. So I think that's why they got eliminated, rotating in from map. But I think they did actually secure quite a bit of kills beforehand. So we'll have to see with the final tally. But for these final 3 teams, they are actively shooting at Synthwave, who is flying in.
They actually got in without taking too much damage. That was pretty surprising. I mean, luckily there's only a couple teams left. One of them was kind of out of the range to shoot them, so it was mostly just pot shots from whatever team that was. But they managed to heal up. They don't have to spend that many resources. We do see at least a gold shield here too. So now it's just going to be holding out in these buildings. I'm not sure if we're going to see a full push. Definitely Hakim is the most unfortunate positioned. They're the only ones now taking one of these main buildings. It's a very small building. They've got the low ground, but it is what it is. I don't know if anybody wants to give up their position to try to take them down either. So it's kind of just right now just taking shots at each other, and we're gonna have to wait probably a bit, right? I don't know if I really see anybody taking any committal pushes yet. I could be wrong.
Yeah, as the final circle closes, I think that's when we're going to start to see fights. But we still see round 5 closing, and now as the 6th ring is going to close, I think that's when we're going to see people pushing in. Obviously, the team on low ground is probably going to get targeted first, or they may actually end up winning because they do. Let's see, we do see that Viper might have to move first because the circle is a little bit closer on them. So we'll see. Honestly, it's kind of all up in the air. Usually lower ground isn't great, but who knows? Maybe Viper will push into them first.
Well, actually, it looks like Hakim is rotating, and they got kind of protected by the other team on the other side, by Synthwave. That kind of took some shots at Viper Squadron as they peeked out to try to stop the rotation from Team Hakim. So now it's a slightly different spot, right? 2 teams in one building, kind of, but that's the building you want to be in. So this is a really weird situation.
Yeah, they do have that under tunnel they can go through if they want to, but I mean, the center of the ring is going to be in front of these buildings, so they are all going to have to push off and face each other at some point. So it's going to be a very messy end circle, which, yeah, is now starting to close.
All right, yeah, here it is. I think this is, I mean, obviously this is where everything's going to happen, but I think this is going to start getting really chaotic for Team Hakeem in particular. They have to try to kind of not commit for as long as possible. I mean, really, realistically, every team has to do that, but the fact that they're underneath a team is very, very scary. You know, if Viper Squadron decides to just kind of move down, they could get a lot of really nice shots on them. And also just the fact that they're in that building can kind of split up some fights, considering there's kind of like the hard walls on either side of the room. So everybody's worried about everybody right now, but it looks like it looks like there is going to be a push down. It looks like Viper Squadron is going to start pushing slightly on Hakeem's, but I mean, they're holding it really well. Ooh, that was a really nice arc star at least to say like, hey, leave us alone. Come on, we're chilling down here.
Yeah, still no full engagements yet. We do see Hakeem's only has 1 kill on at least one of their players, so maybe they got a full team wipe, but not a lot of KP. They probably want to secure as much as they can in this last circle. Synthwave looking pretty good in their position. They are having to face off against this Bangalore ult, but I think they're doing okay. They're actually in the best position to be right now.
Yeah, the fact that the other two teams were so close to each other let Synthwave move forward first, and ooh, there we go. Wow, just super high up in the air right there. Must have taken the horizon, but just melting the other team. And honestly, we're seeing this is pretty close on every side. It looks like one team's about to get eliminated, but Viper Squadron kind of has the high ground as far as things go now. Synthwave had a really great position to begin with, but nobody's really healthy. I don't think a single team is fully healthy here. They're going for the thirst, trying to kill behind the shield, and okay, those grenades are going to be quite strong. I'm sorry, the rockets. Oh, Synthwave only has one HP left on one legend, and Hakeem's actually makes it. Wow, that's actually unbelievable. Super well played by them.
Yeah, that was really hard to follow just because it constantly kept flipping which team was where. Very impressed that Hakeem's actually ended up coming out on top. I think they played their time and their teammates' shields really well there. So kudos to them for surviving. But now I have no idea what the scoreboard is going to look like. It is all up in the air now.
Yeah, me too. Honestly, I was kind of expecting one of the top 4 teams to win and probably take like kind of the top 3 or 4 spots, but a lot of them got eliminated really early. Viper Squadron got the furthest, I would say, out of our current top 4, but we saw Synthwave do so well, and I think they were 5th before, so they could make their way up. Hakeem's taking the full win, which I gotta say too, extremely impressive, not only to win that final fight, but they made some really good decisions, right? They were in that kind of side building where there's like, you know, like the 3 pieces of loot originally, and they decided to take the chance when they could to push underneath Viper Squadron, which felt like a really risky move, but in the end, it gave them the ability to rotate last, and it really paid off for them. So they managed to kind of like sneak their way through to the final ring without having to take too many shots because, you know, nobody had a really great line of sight to them. They were holding that like low ground really well, which is a weird thing to say. And then they, of course, just won the final fight, which is all it came down to because it was extremely chaotic. It was literally just like there was nothing there, right? There was no cover for anybody. There was no super high ground except for that one, like, I don't know, it's like a tank of something right there. But yeah, they just played extremely well. So I'm surprised we didn't see them do better early on because all those choices that they made at the end were all very, very strong. But that's just kind of how it is. You know, we had a lot of really good teams today that were very close to each other in skill, I feel.
Yeah, I think they also just got really lucky with the fact that the two teams decided to focus each other long enough that they were able to get that rotation in. Hakeem's is a team that I would really like to see improve off of getting this practice time in this lobby because I do feel like they could be a really strong team, but we haven't quite seen them been able to win a lot of their fights. So I would like to see them do better in high pressure scenarios, I think. But this one shows that they can have survival instincts if they do work together as a team fast enough. So I would really like to see them work on that a little bit more.
Yeah, I could see that for sure. I think one of the biggest things that we see in really any battle royale is that consistency is very difficult, right? But the teams that have the consistency are the ones that come out on top constantly, right? You can't just pop off one single game and be like, yeah, we're the best, you know, we win. But sometimes, you know, we'll have teams that do pop off, like you know, teams didn't get that many, like, for example, kills that game, but they played very well in that final moment. But if you're not doing that every single game, or at least, you know, most of your games, you're not going to end up at the top of the leaderboard. So that's one thing that you got to learn too. And I think tournament experience, like playing in tournaments like this, is a huge part of it because you can be a lot more relaxed in a a, just like a normal ranked game even, you don't have to quite be as worried as like surviving all 100% of the time, right? You can take a few more risks and such, but the experience that they get from this particular day, even off of this win, they can look at these things and say, you know what? This is good. This is perfect. But we can see here they got a total of 3 eliminations throughout the entire team. A total of, let's see, that's about 600, a little bit less than 700 damage, or maybe just above 700 damage, but definitely our lowest kill and lowest damage team to win. But you know what? This is a battle royale. You got to play smart. You got to be the last team alive.
Yeah, it's one of those things where like this kind of shows you that they haven't been consistently playing very well. So I want to point out that their damage dealt, okay, that's fine. Sometimes you don't get a lot of damage, but their accuracy was also kind of low. So it's one of those things of like, I think they just weren't given the proper opportunities to find the right positionings in fights. Also, their legend makeup is a little bit strange. I think if they played for someone, played with characters that felt a little bit stronger for their personalities, it would be better. We see a lot of legends that might be better for solo play here. So I don't know if they got a lot of practice in together as a team, working with these different synergies with these legends, but it seems like they kind of chose legends that were better for survivability on their own.
Yeah, all 3 of these legends. I mean, this is, I think, the first Wraith that we've seen today. It's definitely a team that it lacks a little bit of like oomph, especially in team fights, so you can understand how they would get wiped in ones where they're not just the healthiest at the end, which is exactly, I think, what we saw. But now we see only 1 repeat winner throughout the entire day. It's We Don't Play, but TXC, Baguette, LF, and Hakeem's also winning games, and so it's very, very close. I'm really excited to see the final leaderboard once we get it all set up, because we've got a lot of things in question, right? We Don't Play was in the lead. They didn't do super swell that last game. They might still be holding on to their lead because Baguette also didn't do extremely well. They got a lot of elimination points though, so we'll see if that was enough to overtake that, I believe, 13-point lead. Them ratting to, I believe, a 4th or 5th place spot, or We Don't Play ratting to a 4th or 5th place spot was very, very good for them. That's just going to make it a little bit harder for them to get knocked off their throne, as they did play well the rest of the entire day. But, 3rd through 5th really is totally up in the air. The fact that Synthwave did so well and they were right in that spot, the fact that Viper Squadron did so well and they were right in that spot, and then TXC did well as well. So realistically, whoever's in the money, it is, I could not even predict it, because we saw the same 5 or 6 teams throughout the day just do well in every single game, and I'm glad it's coming down to a big question mark. But again, this is money. I believe the top 4 get money, especially first place. Goes down a little bit per space, so you really want to be within that top 4. It didn't cost them anything to enter, but they can walk away with some moolah.
Yeah, so first place gets $600, which is $200 per player. Second gets $300, which is $100 per player, and third and fourth each get $150, which is $50 per player. So it's still a pretty decent amount of money, especially for a tournament that you can enter for free, which is great. So you not only do you get the experience, but you also get a little bit of money to help fuel your adventure through the next competitive journey you might take, which is really awesome.
Or to just get more skins. Let's go.
Yeah, especially with the new, I think it's the Predator versus, it's the Predator event. So all the skins are aimed to look like a Predator-inspired skin, which is really cool. The Lifeline one is actually really cool.
Yeah, I'm actually a big fan of this event. I think what was the last one we had? Was the last one the anime one? Okay, you know what? We got the standings. We can talk about skins later. We're gonna start, of course, down at the bottom to see who was playing consistently from the bottom. We saw a few of these teams we didn't see all that much. I'm actually surprised. Some of these teams, like, we saw Deja Vu a little bit in there more, but it looks like they did play more like as a duo. We saw RGB do quite well, and actually you can see, the points start to even out, and there's a decent amount of placement points and elims, even starting from 12th place, which is great to see. And a lot of those teams were in fights, but here we go. We Don't Play really holding on to that lead, actually. They must have gotten more elims than I thought, so they will be your week 3 champion for the Masters Circuit Wildcards qualifier. They had a pretty significant, they actually built a lead, and actually Baguette did just not very well. That's the big deal here, is that the Baguette just didn't get as many points as they wanted to. Viper Squadron actually stealing second place from them by a single point.
Yeah, but I want to point out that Viper Squadron had the same amount of, they had almost the same amount of elims as We Don't Play. They were just down by 1. So incredibly well done. They just need to work on placement now, and then they should be good, because you can see the disparity between first place and second place and how many placement points they were able to get. So Viper Squadron, incredibly strong team. They just need to work on survivability just a little bit longer, and they may actually be able to take first place when we don't play in future tournaments.
Yeah, that's the big difference here. If you look at placement points between 2nd through 6th, everybody is within 4 points of each other, right? It's 28, 29, 30, 24, 26. So everybody is really within that same range. The big step up was we don't place placement points. They were so good at playing that final ring and staying alive until that final ring. Because, I mean, look at the other elims, too. You know, Baguette also within 3 elims of we don't play. The aggression from a lot of these teams is very much there, the ability to win fights, but the ability to win fights and then survive, especially on a map like Kings Canyon, where you can win a fight against a very strong team and then not make it out of there alive, is just, it's so key. That skill is so key, and we don't play, showing it off just tremendously today.
Yeah, absolutely. Congratulations for getting first place. And yeah, that's awesome. They made, what is it, $200 per player, so $600 overall, which is awesome.
Yeah, and you know, this is just one of many different tournaments. But you know, aside from actually the continuation of the Masters circuit, which of course the next qualifier will be on September 24th, and then the finals, I believe, are going to be near the end of October. So you can sign up for that next one, compete.playstation.com. Be sure to do that. There's also a Fortnite Cup happening on September 25th, and then we got some fighting games, which is what I'm very familiar with. Of course, we got Dragon Ball FighterZ and Street Fighter V and Tekken 7, all with their own fight nights. And then the 4th qualifier. Oh, I'm sorry. September 4th. That's today. I forgot what date it was. You know, I'm living my best life here. But the next qualifier is going to be on October 8th, and then the final one near the end of October. You know, is it September? Is it August? I don't know what month it is anymore. But honestly, you know, I'm so happy that we got to do this. You know, again, for anybody who isn't aware, again, girls having some really unfortunate weather issues. I think it's literally a hurricane. So we're all hoping that she's doing extremely well and that there's not any damage or anything like that, and that all clears up quickly. And then Rain Day is out on another venture. But I'm really happy that we got to do this. You know, this has been extremely fun, extremely fun, and I appreciate everybody who's been watching and letting us do this. You got any final thoughts before we close out here?
No, I mean, so if you want to watch the NA, I believe that starts at 2 p.m. PST. So that's going to be happening very soon. So if you want to see NA action, that's going to be really cool. It's going to be completely different from EU because the playstyles are very different. You can probably gather that from, you know, how ALGS plays. So it'll be really cool to see that. So tune back in at 2 p.m. to see us cast NA.
Yeah. There's a lot more Apex left today. And of course, if you want to see the schedule for that, or if you want to sign up for the tournaments yourself, once again, go to compete.playstation.com. They've got tournaments, they've got videos, they've got guides, everything that you could possibly want. Play it all from your PlayStation, compete.playstation.com. But like was just said, you know, we're going to take a little bit of a break, a little bit of a lunch break for anybody here in NA and anybody in EU. I don't know, maybe it's time to go to sleep. But we'll be back in just about 2 hours. Yeah, just a little bit over 2 hours from now for North America. So go have some lunch, go get some rest. I'm certainly going to do that, and we'll be back with more of the Apex Legends Master Circuit Wildcards qualifier at 2 p.m. Pacific time.